Oh, whoa, apparently H7 is losing.
Is it? So white is threatening mate in 1, and the engine says the evaluation bar, as you guys can see, jumped completely. This is a bad move. Let's find why.
Ah!
Black promotes with a check. After 97, you have to go to G5 with the king, and G1 is check.
Oh, it's check and Alireza resigns. So H7 was a threat, but not after G2. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to coverage of St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. I suppose not welcome back, it's the first day, but coverage, as always, of Hikaru's games on the GM Hikaru Twitch channel. How are you doing, Anna? Chat? How's our energy?
I'm doing great. I'm hyped for this. And welcome back, and also welcome to the first day, both because we already have covered 3 days of the Fischer Random, the 9LX, which was won by Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura, shared first place. TSM, TSM, TSM! We did hear that chant. Will we hear it again? Is the question, because today the Rapid and Blitz begins with the first round pairings being Levi. Let's do the spoiler.
Yeah, it's and by the way, yes, Anna, your volume was slightly off. I did notice that, but I fixed that as you were talking. It's Hikaru versus Magnus. We have the finals in the first round. So, well, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. The finals in the first round. This could decide the tournament. The Rapid and Blitz will feature 9 rounds of Rapid play and 18 of Blitz chess. We start with the Rapid portion. And for that, we have some of the field from the Fischer Random Tournament and 4 new players, being Jan Nepomniachtchi, Alexander Grishuk, Pentale Hari Krishna, and Jeffrey Zhang. I was like, do I remember? But yeah, I have my cheat sheet just in case.
See, this is why we're a great team, and along with chat, this is why this is the place to be to catch all the games. I was going to pull up some information first of all about the pairings. The very first round. These are the matchups that we have. Hikaru Magnus on that first line. Wesley Jeffrey. Actually, that's a matchup of top US Olympic team caliber players. Lenier Dominguez, Pentala Hari Krishna. Pentala is the 3rd, or is he the 4th ranked in India? I believe he's 3rd?
Right now could be 3rd. Yes, I think it's changing, but he is part of the Olympic team of India, of course, and had been working with Vishy Anand. So a very renowned, well-known grandmaster joining the field today, all the way from India.
Wow, and actually I was wrong. He's 2nd. I actually thought Vidit was ranked 2nd, but it turns out that Pentala is... Oh, wow, that is amazing. Okay, well, shout out to Hari. I thought he was the number 3, but hey, it unhurt being number 2 as well. That's pretty good. And we all know who is number 1, and he's not participating. He's too busy being a global ambassador and superstar, and not the biggest fan of these online events. Of course, we're talking about Vishy Anand, former world champion and legend. Tiger from Madras.
Absolute legend, and I guess it would be a different story if it's an over-the-board tournament, but he did participate in online events such as the Pro Chess League, so we did see him competing, but maybe he's just very busy and probably has a preference for over-the-board tournament. Certainly is a beast at speed chess as well, of course.
Anand is the best. He might have played the craziest game ever against Joel Lautier. I don't remember exactly when that game took place, but it was 19... I'm gonna go full Hikaru. I believe in 1997. I don't know. I don't actually know when that game was played.
And you were there, Levi, right?
Yes, I was there.
And for the rest of the pairings, we have Firuza versus Aronian. That's a clash of generations. And Grishuk versus Nepomniachtchi, the 2 new players from Russia, new in the sense of they didn't play in the Chess 9 LX, but of course they are not new in the chess scene at all. They are top 2 grandmasters from Russia, very well known. Thug Life, both could be well described by Thug Life. Basically, they're gonna face against each other in the very first round.
Yeah, they are, and well, like I said, it wouldn't be a chess production if we didn't have some sort of technical difficulties to start things off. I will get us some games on the big screen. That's the best way to do this. I mean,
Do let me know, Levi, if I can help you in any ways, because I also don't see the games.
yeah, I don't see them either. But that's why we're here. Because we want excitement, and we'll get us the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz games on the auxiliary screen. Everybody bear with me for a second. We don't control this. We just sit here. We just, hope that the games appear. And when they don't, this is the best that we can do. We can adapt, overcome. I do see the games. Oh, wow. Magnus played the Karo Khan. I am curious if Magnus played the Karo Khan because Hikaru has made fun of me for playing the Karo Khan, and because Magnus watches every single Hikaru stream, he knows that he controls Hikaru by playing this opening. What do you think, Anna?
I think that's a very likely theory that it indeed happened. For sure. Is at every single stream of yours, knows every single line that Hikaru has ever told you. So that could be one of the reasons of this preparation. I also need to find the game, by the way, Levi. Am I in the right place? Like, can I see it in live chess?
Yes. Yes. No. No, I apologize. not in live chess. No, I'm using the events page. I will send you the link.
Okay, thank you. I'm a bit lost, and I also need to open up the games on my end.
No, this is the beauty of the online chess. Someone needs to write a code. Chat, I know a lot of you are software engineers, so some of you need to write a better code system for us to relay chess games, because frankly speaking, it is a disaster, and like I don't know, we can't seem to fix it. By the way, we do have an advanced Karo Khan from Hikaru. H4 play. This is my favorite variation. So Hikaru is playing my favorite variation. Magnus is playing my best defense. This is just an ode to Gotham. I love it. I love it.
Oh, I like it. I like how they are both basically making a statement with this opening choice.
Yes, they're like, just make Levi happy. On the real though, I don't. Magnus choosing the Karo Khan for the first time in I don't know when the last time he played the Karo Khan was. This is pretty rare to see from Magnus.
First time in a while. He does play rarely defenses like the Karo Khan or the French defense, similar structure, but this is a once in a long while for Magnus Carlsen when he plays these kind of openings.
We have a pretty I guess it's also good to remind folks of the format of this event. So for now, I'm going to put up this big scoreboard. Friends, the format of the Rapid and Blitz is that we have 3 days of Rapid. And it's just kind of like the Fisher Random was, the 9LX. It's 3 games every day. So that finishes the round robin. But then the Blitz, Anna, the Blitz is crazy. They play 18 games in 2 days, which is 9 a day. It's not like 10-8. It's in case anyone's confused. They play 9 games every day. They go full round robin every single day for 2 days, which is kind of nuts. Like, isn't that?
It is, but it means more and more action for us, more spectacles, fireworks, hopefully lots of blunders too. That makes chess exciting. Especially the shorter the time control, the more likely that we're gonna see mistakes. This is now back to traditional chess. So those of you who were with us for the first 3 days, thank you so much for your support, and also welcome back to traditional chess. The pieces are where they are supposed to be. So there is theory, there is opening knowledge, and we will not see the players starting to think on move 1 or 2 because they know all about the openings and they have a very wide repertoire analyzed into depths of moves 10, 15, 20, 30, depends on what opening we're talking about. So they will not start thinking until well into the opening.
No, they you're absolutely right. I started my sentence with the word no, and I think that was more of a verbal tick than me disagreeing with what you're saying. It's like how people say no, yeah, and it's like what do you mean?
No, yeah, hell yeah.
No, yeah, no, yeah. This game in particular between Hikaru and Magnus is, I think, still within the realm of theory. I think this is still relatively theoretical. I don't know the exact status of it, and I'm supposed to be the Karo Khan guy.
Yes.
But I'm for this position I'm failing, unfortunately. I don't know. Yeah, and queen a6. Oh, so fun story, Anna. Just before this tournament, I was streaming. That's not the fun story. That's a terrible story. But I played a few games in the Title Tuesday Blitz tournament, and I almost had this exact position against none other than Mr. Fire on board, Alexei Shirov with the black pieces. But I played queen b5. I didn't play queen a6. I just played Mr. Alexei Shirov. It was a good game, but he beat me in the end. Except I did not move my queen to where Magnus moved it now.
So maybe Magnus not only follows your streams, Levy, every single minute of your streams, but he also was following your Title Tuesday game just a few minutes ago.
I didn't.
Totally real.
I didn't say that. You are free to assume that, but I only said the first part.
Well, in any case, this is a fascinating idea that Black is trying to trade the queen by placing it on b5 or a6, but the pawn push c4 prevents it. So what's the future of this queen on a6, and how will Magnus develop the rest of his pieces?
Great question. Let me ask the chat. Chat, what's Magnus's next move? We'll get you the eval bar. Don't worry. We have to remember, it's like a restaurant with slightly poor service because it's the first day that it's launching. But once the restaurant gets rolling, service is going to be good. Chat saying knight d7, chat saying bishop b4. All these moves definitely strike me as quite natural. Any others?
Natural.
He plays knight e7. That move always confuses me. Now, the big question here for me is, after all the developing moves are made, like knight f3, knight f5, Black is just worse in these positions as far as I always lose with Black, which is why I stopped playing into this. I'm just saying. I mean, Magnus chose it's an ode to me, but hopefully he doesn't play like me too. I want a competitive game.
Well, I must agree with you. I do like White's position here a lot. More space, more activity for White's pieces, more mobility because of the lots of space that we have gained in the center. And yes, it's going to take a while for Black to develop their pieces. So why is Magnus playing this?
Why does anybody play this actually is a great question. Hikaru, this h4 line is super venomous. It's super venomous.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. It takes space, and Black usually commits with h5, which is exactly what Magnus did. You just get this great square for your bishop, and then you have a lot of more space in the center, and even on the queen side. We'll see. Mm-hmm. Hikaru had a game where I'm gonna flex for Hikaru. Hikaru had a game, beat a German grandmaster, I believe it was Rasmus Svane, in Gibraltar 2019. I think that's who he played. And I think that's who he beat. There you go. That's the flex on behalf of Hikaru. You're welcome, chat members.
I do like the flex, and once again, I think White has a very pleasant position. I don't know if Magnus is still in his preparation or this is not exactly what he aimed for this game. Well, we should also mention is that the field was known, the 10 players that are participating in the Rapid and Blitz, that has been announced already a while ago, weeks ago. But the exact pairings was not known until an hour before the round.
Yes.
So every single player had to prepare against every other participant with both the white and black pieces, which in the Blitz will happen, but you may not want to go for the same variation in Rapid and Blitz. Different time controls sometimes lead to different opening choices. It's tough when you only have then 1 hour remaining to actually get ready.
I think that's actually kind of nuts. And, the player who potentially got shafted the most here is the guy on the screen. Hikaru. Because, well, I mean, maybe some of the players, they have bad records against each other, and so they need a little bit more time to prepare. But isn't it crazy that you only get, what is it, an hour to prepare? And you might get Magnus, and you might get Magnus not with the white pieces, you might get Magnus with the black pieces. At least with white, you just do your thing. And but how do you live an hour to prepare for your first game? It's not.
Yeah, and that will have an impact on the rest of the rounds of today too, because there is a break between the rounds, but not too long of a break. So basically, today's first 3 games will be the most difficult when it comes to preparation, but it's the same amount of time all the players have. And for day 2 and day 3, it's gonna be somewhat more time at least that they have at their disposal.
Yes, once you get the main pairings, you're kind of good for the duration of the tournament. And we're gonna be good with an eval bar and a board in a moment, guys. So appreciate your
Yay!
patience.
Welcome to the Eval Bar. That finally the Eval Bar decided to attend the show too. Can we get some hype in the chat for the
Well,
evaluation
it's
bar?
not bar on. Oh, there we go. There we go. Now we've got it. We're good. Everything's all right. Eval bar showed up to work. What a bum, this eval bar. What is it?
It was only 13 minutes late, the Eval Bar, but he's back. He's back at work. We do appreciate the Eval Bar's presence. And I think it's great for viewers in general, even if you don't know how to play chess. But that bar on the left side of the board will be bouncing up and down, showing who is doing better. So if you see the bar going more in percentage of white will be doing better. And the same goes for the black percentage. The more you see, especially if it's a full bar, all white or all black means that white or black is completely winning.
Exactly. For now, it's kind of in the balance. Bar will be visible at all times, yes, and we will get the permanent board on the bottom left-hand side as well, with clock time and eval bar, which is a little bit of a boost to the show, because we didn't quite have that window before. There you go. Now, for now, it's just Hikaru on both. We can scroll around and see what's going on in some of the other games.
Sure, let's take a quick look at the rest of the boards as well. As we already said, 10 players in the field, so every round we have 5 games to cover.
Let's go to what? Firouzja, or should we look at Grishuk Nepo? Maybe Grishuk
Wherever you
Nepo?
want to start. Yeah, sure. The All Russia Derby already have traded queens in this semi-Tarash.
Standing. Jan Nepomniachtchi begins the game with 20 minutes and has 23 minutes on the clock. How... this is why we play Fischer Random Chess, because...
Have they changed the time control? I thought they started with 25, but in either case, he's
you're
playing
right.
extremely fast.
You're
He's
right.
playing very fast. That's the conclusion.
You are right. You are right. I stand corrected, but it doesn't really matter because he's got 23 minutes after 16 moves, so he's not thinking anyway. Shout out to Chessbay with the 10 gifted subs, who actually made that alert.
Oh.
Well, I'm not sure who made it, but made sure that it looks nice and pretty. So thank you to Chessbay for the 10 gifted. And yeah, well, if you got dodged, let us know. Maybe we'll do something about that.
So what do you think of this position between Grishik and Nepomniachtchi after the queen trade? Is this a dry position, or will there be some fire on the board?
No, it's... Grishuk is pressuring a little bit with his 2 rooks, looking very nice. Pressure on the B file. Grishuk should be in top condition, by the way, because normally at this point of his Tuesday, he's playing Titled Tuesday. So if he's a creature of habit, then he should be doing quite okay. I think Nepo's going to play some, some solid defensive moves, or blitz out the move Bishop D7 and give Grishuk a +1 position. I don't really know why the eval bar didn't like that move, but it is what it is. How fast did Nepo play that, by the way?
Extremely fast, considering that they started with 25 minutes and now they are on almost move 20. It's move 17 now. The increment is 5 seconds. I'm getting confused with the Fischer random because that was 20 plus 10 and this is 25 plus 5. 5-second increment. And Chesby, thank you so much for gifting subs on my channel too. This is insane. Thank you. Can we please spam lots of Chesby emotes? Thank you. Thank you.
A position that is looking pretty complicated is this one between Wesley and Jeffrey. And it's out of a Sicilian defense. Bishop b5. This is the Rosalimo. Ooh, e6 knight e7 is a very interesting line. It blocks in your bishop, but the point is that you're trying to protect your knight with this knight. Queen b6, a trade. For beginners, this looks very strange to back the bishop up after you bring the bishop out. But, okay. Look at this, Anna. Are you seeing this?
I am seeing it. I do
C3.
like the Rosalimo usually from white's perspective. I play these lines as white. But these last few moves, interesting. I'm a little bit puzzled. But after the trade, I'm guessing that this position will actually be way less messy than it has been after the knight jumped to a4, c5. The bishop on d4 is a very active piece, so of course it's very logical to aim to trade it. You always want to get rid of the best pieces of your opponent, and with that you are improving your own pieces. So increase the power, the potential of your own pieces, and try to decrease the potential of your opponent's pieces. That's what's happening here with the bishop trade, at least.
When I play, it's good theory, but it almost never happens. I like this move though. Yes, you bring up a great point. Also, the bishop for black has moved several times. This is the bishop's first move. Okay, so this is interesting. dc5, defending his bishop. Now, are we going to get knight c5 from Wesley?
Knight takes c5 would be a very natural move, and it happened instantly. Rook d8 by Jeffrey. That rook on the d file is very useful because the white queen is still on d1, so this is a potential pin. But also, it's very likely that Wesley will move the queen away either right now or very shortly in the future. Actually, I think queen to c2 is one of the most natural, if not the best options. I don't know. That's a very human move, for instance, to get the queen out of that file that could be dangerous.
Yep, moving the queen to basically any square that protects the bishop. Because you might think, well, the knight guards the bishop, so that doesn't really matter. But if the queen moves to like h5, for example, I'm going to take the knight with my bishop. You say, well, why would you do that? Then my rook hits this. You've lost the defender, which is why Anna is saying you have to go somewhere regarding this bishop, at least for now.
Mm-hmm.
You thought this event was over the board. It is not, due to the coronavirus. And it is very cool to see more of these online tournaments taking place, especially with the higher stakes. This is the first year that something like this is happening. Who knows, you know, if the pandemic didn't break out, whether any of this would have happened. I mean, this is like chess on the big stage now. This event is $250,000. When that's never happened, ever.
Exactly. It's just it's crazy how the year 2020 turned things upside down and inside out, but luckily for chess it also had its pluses, as you mentioned, that these tournaments were basically, if they existed, they were over the board tournaments or new tournaments rose with the Magnus Carlsen tour that we were covering earlier on Hikaru's channel. So we are very lucky in the chess community that even though this is a very challenging and difficult year for chess, it did create an unexpected boom in online chess and chess as an esport.
I want to put who deserves to be on the bottom left of the screen.
Hikaru? I mean,
Yes.
oh, we are going back on the big board.
Yeah.
Both boards,
Wesley-
Hikaru Carlsen.
Wesley, so we're gonna look at Hikaru on the big screen. I saw chat hypothesizing that Magnus Carlsen is disconnected. We do know Magnus does have a second monitor on which he flexes the fact that he doesn't need to pay attention to the games and instead watches like basketball or something, but he's got no games to watch. Because today, the games begin in 4 hours, so I don't know what Magnus is doing on the big board. And he's finally made a move. He's down 8 minutes against Hikaru, but knight b6 makes sense.
It does make sense. So time advantage for Hikaru, and also positionally, it is still a very appealing position with more space, as we mentioned, better piece placement, more activity. It may not be that much of a deal, but certainly a very pleasant position to play. And I'm pretty sure that Hikaru is enjoying this.
I would think that he is. At this point, he's improved his position to the maximum. I think it's time to play a3 or a4. I never know which of these plans is better, and I've played this with the white pieces multiple times, probably like 20 games total, reach a position kind of like this. And a3 is possible because you just can't take it. You're pinning yourself. Something like knight b1 would win the bishop. So, what do we predict, chat?
A3.
Like a3?
Yes, A3 definitely is one of the top candidates. And after a3, what will happen to the bishop? Will Magnus have to take on d2? Because retreating it on, if you go to a5, you're trapping your own bishop almost. And everywhere else, well, e7 is a possibility. F8 definitely is not a possibility. So there aren't too many options for Magnus after a3.
I think you do have to take on d2, and then I'm assuming Hikaru takes, right? I with the knight. Not that he will just take in general. He will take. Does he take with the knight to keep c4 protected?
Could be the follow-up, yes, because you don't want to drop that pawn unless there's something concrete right after the trade on c4 and black winning the pawn. I don't see any traps or tricks that we could have after that. So if bishop takes, knight takes d2, we have the c4 pawn well protected. And maybe that's the time that black needs to finish development and castle. But even after castling, it's got to be castle kingside. Castle queenside is illegal, but even if it wasn't illegal, that's not where you want your king.
Yeah, but more importantly, it is illegal.
It is illegal. Shall we explain? Because we were talking about castling at Fischer Random Levy. Over to you. Why is it illegal to castle?
Well,
queenside, sorry. Kingside possible, queenside not.
Well, Anna, great question. So, chat, it's not possible to castle in this position because in order to do that, your king would have to go 2 squares. And one of those squares, you would be going through a check, the bishop on g5. That would be illegal. Castle this way, it is possible because you're not getting in the way of any sort of enemy pieces. At the same time, if Magnus plays rook c8, you can't castle a certain direction once you've already moved the rook. So hopefully that helps. And if anyone's confused, there's like 3 people in chat that don't know the castling rules. They're like, oh, hi, I learned. Nice.
It's important that you cannot castle into check, through check, or from check. So everything that involves a check is a no, because castling is a king move.
And there we go. Both of them have now castled. Magnus not falling for the illegal move castles queenside and plays a short castle. But what I always like here for the white position is that this h5 pawn is weak.
Exactly.
Sometimes a way to try to get to it. Not here, though, sadly.
Yeah, maybe not yet, but you're right that that pawn will be a target in the future. And as simple as it is, pawns don't go backwards, which means that that weakness will remain a weakness. And if black wants to support it by pushing g6, that will also have its consequences. Every move has its pros and cons. And if you push that g pawn, yes, you are supporting your h5 pawn, but you are weakening the dark squares. And that bishop on g5 will end up on f6. A queen on h6 that would be mate on g7 or h8. I know it's a dream, but it's on the cards. It's on the cards if black ends up weakening the dark squares.
Exactly right. And g6 generally for me does not go so well when I play it. Magnus is playing c5, so this is spicy. There very well may be a breakthrough somewhere here with the move c5. This is about as spicy as the position is going to get. And also Magnus, for the last few moves, is not taking the pawn on a2, everybody. Probably because there is a tactical refutation. The queen is, in all likelihood, just going to get trapped if you go queen takes a2.
Yes, the 2 rooks would attack the queen. So first rook a1 and then... Oh, actually it's not that simple. I was thinking rook a1, rook b1, easy. But the queen can still go to c3. In any case, even if you don't trap it instantly, tucking it in there on b2 with only 1 square to go to, that's way too dangerous.
Yeah, it does not look like something pleasant like you'd want to do. It's just a little bit too bold. What are the things we have to calculate after c5? So first things first. First things first. Should we take on c5?
That's an option.
Yeah. Now the question is it a good option? I don't know. Because then bishop c5, and what progress have we really made in our position? If we play c takes d5 in the next position, the queens open up, and the rook
Mhm.
sees the bishop. That looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's a very concrete line. Or if Hikaru wants black to take on d4 instead, that would be another argument saying that I can just wait for black to take because that isn't a big issue. If c takes d4, knight takes d4, white will end up trading that f5 knight on d4, but that is one of the best pieces of black here, so it's not a trade that we would not want to see.
I'm actually thinking about this d takes c5 move, and I don't quite understand what if there's something bad about it. There must be something really sneaky, really sneaky. So
I guess the problem can be if I can include d takes c4 so that you cannot trick me through the c file.
D takes c5, d takes c4. That is brutal. And then if I take, then you take, and I don't get to open the file the way I want.
Yeah, because if white gets to play the line you said, then it really is like, why is Hikaru not playing it instantly? It seems to be winning material. But I guess the reasoning would be d takes c4 intermediate move to then take on c5.
I am allergic to all these pawn captures, which is why I had to sneeze. So I normally sneeze to the side, but then I get accused of dabbing in the middle of the stream, and that is not the case. That is not the case. I think you're right. I think d takes c5, d takes c4 is a thing. c5, dc4. Then Anna, well, Hikaru's last move was knight to f1, knight f1, knight e3. Could be something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Just improve that knight that he was already repositioning. And the trades on d4 and c4 are not something that we would be afraid of.
No, they're not. And you're getting rid of the knight on f5. And if you get rid of the knight on f5, the queen is suddenly all the way open to this diagonal. That could be annoying. I don't know though, because then you have to calculate everything, and it can be difficult to calculate. Well, knight e3, and I mean, what if he takes? I mean, what if he takes? And what if he takes? And what if he takes? And the problem is, you could do that in any order.
Yeah.
First this, then that, or this, then that. And I was thinking big time because it's a big decision.
It is a big decision. I'm sure that he will end up calculating all those lines because, as you said, there's so many captures, so many different move orders. But in general, this should still be a great position for white because he's ahead in development. He's got more space, more activity. So if the position ends up opening up in the center, that usually would favor the player that is ahead in development. So white is interested in all those trades, but the specific line matters, of course.
And black's entire setup with h5 and d5 is designed to put the knight right there and ask white, like, what are you going to do about it? Because you can't attack me with pawns because you're a doofus and you already played h4. Can't go here. And so if you're able to trade the knight off, then the queen being stuck on this side of the board is just not good. The queen should not be stuck on a6. White queen can do some damage on the king side. By the way, Anna, I think we have our first result.
Grishuk Nepomniachtchi?
Yes, we have a draw.
I didn't look, but the way you said it, I was like, ooh, that game. Let's show the position.
Let's show the position indeed. A fascinating 2 bishop and 3 pawn endgame between 2 extremely strong players.
This is a solid start for Grishuk and Nepomniachtchi, but at the same time, sometimes it happens when it's a field of 10 players, so there's still plenty of games. The two face each other in the very first round, so you don't even know if you'll do well or not so well in the tournament. But they are teammates in the Olympic team of Russia. They get on well, so they probably didn't want to put everything on the board and play a very sharp someone has to win kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, it's also it must be nice for them because they actually get the friendship pairing out of the way early, right? So yeah. I don't know. I actually don't know. Do Nepo and Grishuk have a more or less friendly relationship, or?
I think they get on well. I don't think they have besties, but they certainly get along.
By the way, Hikaru did take on c5, which was my initial idea, which probably is not necessarily great for Hikaru, or it's great. I don't know. It could be genius. And he plays the move Queen b1.
All right.
That is interesting. So if bishop takes c5, his idea is to play he takes c4 potentially? Or it's not b4, certainly. Oh, is it b4? The bishop just trapped?
Because if it goes back to e7, what's going on?
Yeah, so here if bishop c5, b4, bishop e7, maybe you go like take, knight g5, and you threaten checkmate, and it's really difficult to defend. Play knight f5, then I'll try to trade your knight with something like knight 3. That might be the idea. Dense idea from our warlord. Knight e3.
Wow, that's bold, but it could also be a really cool idea if it ends up working. The evaluation board doesn't like it that much, but this is tricky because if he'll get to have the kingside attack, it doesn't matter that much if the engine says that he had a better line, a more accurate line. When it comes to a game between two human beings, psychology matters. It does matter that he'll have the initiative, he'll have an attack, and even the best players in the world make mistakes. Even the best players in the world may not be able to find the best moves of the engine.
I don't think... I don't believe that... Oh, wow. I was actually going to say I don't think he's going to take on c5. I actually thought maybe that he had something else. Okay, Hikaru goes for knight g3 immediately? Whoa.
Okay. So he really wants to get this idea where his knight will be on g5, and the checkmate idea is, of course, with queen h7. And for that, we need to get rid of the f5 knight that is in the way.
Yeah, I'm a little bit perplexed.
Me too, because it doesn't feel as forcing. Magnus does take on g3. And now, what is next? If he takes on g5, this is Hikaru's idea. Bishop takes g5, knight takes. That's when this is what he was aiming for. Mate on h7, and black is forced to make a move like g6. And in that position, can he go? Can he continue sacrificing with knight takes?
Oh, you're looking at take g6, knight takes e6?
Yes.
Yeah, that's...
This could be what Hikaru has calculated. And that
Magnus
looks promising because that's at least perpetual. Sorry, Lavi, I was cutting you there.
No, I mean, Magnus is just not a fan of getting checkmated, so he plays rook e8. Now, if takes, knight g5, the thing is that you do have knight e4, but black probably gets this move. And now, knight covers the f6 square. And, I mean, doing something crazy like this, it's not going to work, because I'm just going to play king g7, so you'll run out of pieces. Probably the objective evaluation is that it's just equal, ultimately.
Could be equal. The evaluation bar likes it more for black, but once again, this is a really unclear position for human beings, including top grandmasters. So I really don't think that that Magnus will be thinking here, oh, I'm already much better. No, first he has to survive this attack. And yes, rook e8 is much better than taking on g5. Taking on g5 is what white wanted, but most certainly it wasn't forced. Unfortunately, it wasn't forced. So what is Hikaru's follow-up here? He'll have to go for that idea of knight g5, knight e4, I feel like.
He has to, yeah. Hikaru's sacrificed the pawn, he's damaged his structure, trying to play like, not quite, Mikhail Tal, not quite, because I think Tal would have sacrificed like a rook by now. So, but he's playing like an attacking machine. Take, knight g5, g6 is still looking promising. I gotta tell you, there's another pretty interesting sacrifice. I don't know if it works, but bishop e7, knight g5, and sacrificing on f7.
Oh, so then you want the same check on g6.
Yeah,
The
because
only difference is that the rooks of black are already closer to defend to the
yes,
7th.
yes. But is it a draw? Do I have at least a draw? No, I don't have a draw because you escape.
Mhm.
Aha! I don't have a draw. I thought, like there was a forgotten which book this was, but I read this as a kid, and it was like if you have perpetual and like perpetual doesn't lose you the tournament, then sometimes you can sacrifice stuff and see the perpetual. You get there and you go, oh, I have something better. That's pretty cool. But you have queen f5 if the guy doesn't take your queen.
Yeah, it is a really good advice in general, what you said about the perpetual check. It's easier to sacrifice a piece or so if you know that you have at least a draw going into that
Hmm.
line. But here it's not the case, so Hikaru cannot just give up the piece and go for the checks.
But he has to do this. Yeah, I mean, like he has to play knight g5, and then he has to play g6.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, Magnus has to play g6. I mean, guys, for anyone confused, he cannot play f5 because of en passant. Let's just put that there as well. If this move did not exist, this is good, but it does exist. And here you move the pawn 2 squares, e takes f6. In case anyone's confused why we keep saying g6, Hikaru has played queen e4. Wow, chucking the a2 pawn as well. That is bold.
Has he?
I it is hanging, no?
Oh, oh, I was like, has Magnus taken it? Because that would be, yeah, it's bold to give it up, and even bolder to actually capture it. I feel like because black is already a pawn up, and you can take a second pawn. Yes, Hikaru is giving you one on a silver plate, but maybe you should be a little more careful than just go and grab every single thing that's hanging. And that's said by someone who likes free stuff a lot. I capture everything that's free on the board, but don't,
But
because your king might pay the price.
Magnus is giving back the pawn, and he's doing it to activate his knight. Yeah, you're Anna's completely correct. I mean, queen takes a2 is probably just too dangerous. There's no need to do this. But rook c4 now is an issue. I think Hikaru's other idea is something with g4, like just to chip away the defenses. G4 takes h5, just straight on through. The really good thing for Hikaru is his king is completely safe on h2 in this position. So great move from Magnus, though, I think from a practical standpoint. Plays it fast. And Hikaru has played king h1 to get out of queen b6 check. Right, because queen b6 was coming and you were going to lose a pawn there. Queen a2 is still free. No one's taking free stuff in this position.
No one. And I really thought that Hikaru would want that c pawn, because I'm a little scared if Magnus simply protects it with a pawn pushed
Like
b5.
b5?
It's a protected pass pawn, extra pawn for black. So what is Hikaru's idea there? Is he just saying that his attack on the king side will be strong, like pushing g4, opening up the position on the king side and going for the kill? He doesn't care about that passed pawn.
It could be. It could be like b5. I mean, he's thinking g4, maybe some queen maneuver to try to get to f6. Obviously, the knight is covering, but maybe you can sacrifice in the future. I don't know. Also, Hikaru's time just jumped up to 7 minutes. Apparently, there was an issue with the clock relay, so Hikaru actually has 7 minutes on the clock.
Hmm.
People were asking, what about queen c4, my friends? At the end of queen c4, there is knight e3 forking both rooks. What do we have? No, we don't have a move yet.
Those of you asking where are we watching the game, this is all on chess.com, and you can go and check the rest of the game. So we are focusing on Hikaru's game, obviously, because we are covering the event on Hikaru's channel, but feel free to go and check out the rest of the games. We will be switching, but this is the main game. The world champion with the black pieces against Hikaru Nakamura. The two of them won the Fisher Random Tournament of Champions Showdown, and now they start the Rapid and Blitz facing each other in the very first game. So this is huge. This is our main game, but you can go to chess.com, live chess. All the games are there. You can pick the game you want to choose, want to follow, and analyze them with the engine yourself if you prefer.
Magnus has moved the pawn out of the way, so he doesn't go b5, but he plays c3. Can't take, because that chucks one rook and probably the second one. Works, so don't take it. g4, what is Magnus intending to do here to beat this g4 attack? The thing is, if g4 takes h5, there's king g7, I think. Because if you take, you get mated. Don't take and get checkmated. Or is Hikaru going to take back on g4? But then there's knight e3, isn't there? Fork? Crazy?
Yeah. I don't know what will be the line there. It's crazy sharp.
Hikaru also can... I'm confused, by the way, just briefly. What's the difference between king h2 and king h1? I guess... Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. We need some... We definitely need some thunder spam, though. It helped last
Which
time.
emote? Thunder, the thunder ones. Yes,
Yes.
let's do that. On Hikaru's channel, everyone. Yes, I see. Very good. Very good copy past that. Exactly. Spam this thunder. Keep it up, guys. Keep it up. We need the energy. Keep it up. Keep it up. This game, as Levi said before the tournament started, this first game could decide who will win the tournament, because these two were the top two players in the Fischer random, and they clearly are in very good shape. They were playing against each other in the Magnus Tour finals. So this first game could already show who has a better chance at winning the entire tournament.
Yeah, this is awesome. I don't know who did the drawings, or I don't know if the organizers literally sat there and went, what would be most interesting matchup on first game? Ah, okay, Hikaru Magnus. They probably did draw it in a round robin style, but who knows? Maybe they have some. Okay, he plays Rook c2. Rook c2. The point of Rook c2 protects the a pawn for now, and Hikaru is lulling Magnus a little bit here.
It's still not that easy to play as black, I feel like, because yes, you have an extra pawn, and yes, it's a passed pawn on c3, but the king side can open up at any point with the pawn push g4, and you need to be ready for that. G4, and after the trade, h5.
Magnus has gone Rook c8 to stockpile defense on the c-pawn, but it does remove one guard near the king. The thing is, if Hikaru doesn't play g4, I don't know when he's going to get a better chance, because at some point, Magnus is going to bring in his queen, and I'm not sure what you're going to do. Like, if you play Rook f2, this pawn is going.
Mm-hmm.
Pawn is
yes,
going.
that's an issue. It's an issue that it's such an advanced passed pawn. So I'm still puzzled that it wasn't taken when Hikaru was given a chance, but he must have faith in this kingside attack. There's no other explanation. Why would you not take the pawn?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Magnus has played the move Queen a4. That's just a direct attack on a rook. Just a direct attack on the rook. If the rook moves, you need to move it to the right square, or else the rook behind it will be also under fire, and he has played rook f2. Knight takes f7. Is that what Hikaru is trying to set up? Knight f7 here?
That is a threat, because if the black rook pins the knight, we have a check on h6, and that wins the rook on f8. So it is hanging. Not e5 in this position, ladies and gentlemen. E5 is not hanging. f7 is hanging.
Magnus has 3 minutes to decide whether or not he wants to overprotect f7 or push the c-pawn once again.
I'm scared of this c-pawn. I'm so scared. c2, he's just one square away from promotion. We have to play rook c1 to block it, and now rook c3, a very active move, just bringing the rook into the attack as well. And after the queen moves, that b4 pawn is hanging too. Oh, I'm worried. I'm really worried.
Yeah, Magnus comes in here with the rook to hit the queen. You've got to chuck the g-pawn. Gotta chuck the g-pawn, but the thing is, b-pawn is hanging, g-pawn is hanging. If you take on b4, h-pawn is hanging. It's all about these three pieces, and then if there's a way you can sneak around, like if the queen just lands on d8, that would be nice. And even then, black plays queen e8, rook e8. Not a pleasant situation to be in.
I don't know how Hikaru can get out of this. I'm starting to be extremely worried about the possibilities, even when it comes to setting up a trap, because yes, the f7 pawn is hanging, but right now the queen has to go, and you cannot keep it on the f5, so we can't even maintain this threat.
You gotta move the queen. You definitely can't sit around. What are your only moves? Queen e2 and queen e4, right? That's it.
Yeah, but if you play queen e4, black may just take on b4 with the queen, offer a queen trade. It's a second pawn that Magnus is taking. At least that will give up the c2 pawn, though. I'm just now seeing that if maybe Magnus would not want to take it just so that the c2 pawn survives, but queen e4 does attack the pawn with the third piece.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, at this point, once the black pieces have kind of stumbled into the territory and c2 holds you down here, it's tough. And if you're not going to be able to play g4, again, it's still tough to tell whether king h1 or king h2 was better or worse. But it seemed like just the whole setup process was a little bit slow. Like you had to play g4 a little bit faster. You had to kind of get into your attack a little bit faster.
Yes. And it also felt like the moment when Hikaru had the chance of taking this c4 pawn, perhaps he had to. Perhaps he had to go for that. Of course, there had to be something that he didn't like there. It's not just that he felt like he doesn't need that pawn. Maybe he thought if he had taken on c4, then black takes the pawn on a2, so it was gonna be a pawn down regardless. But it just feels like this c pass pawn is way too strong.
Block situation is slowly catching up. Oh no, actually Magnus did pass now. And Hikaru does play queen e2. The idea probably is that if rook g3, there is this. Okay, Magnus just scoops up this pawn. Am I bad at chess, or is the c2 pawn under attack now?
It is certainly under attack, but Hikaru doesn't take it.
What is the 0-0-0 thing?
Zero,
Obviously,
zero, zero?
obviously Hikaru did not lose on time. No, my screen is showing 0-0-0.
Oh.
It's obviously not what happened. So, okay, let me refresh.
Cannot lose on time, but king h2. Was there no way of taking the pawn? What was going on there? Rook takes c2.
Okay, I think when Magnus makes a move, the clocks will update. I think that's what's going to happen.
Hopefully he didn't lose on time. But the position, unfortunately, the main issue here is the position being really bad at this stage. It just slowly started slipping out. I think the king side attack idea was the right one, but maybe there was a different move or there a more precise line. Whoa, 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 whoa. Rook takes g3 by Magnus Carlsen. A rook sacrifice, because if you take it, there's queen a3 check, picking up the rook on c1.
Yeah, I would love to fix the clock situation, but I don't have control of that. I'm really sorry. Hikaru is just playing with no time on the clock. You love to see it.
Yeah, 0-0-0, and the position too is bad.
Very strange. Queen c4, we're going for a back rank mate. Oh, and Hikaru's got a minute now.
Okay, that's better. That's better than not having any time. Must have been a glitch. Must have been a glitch with the site. But the issue here is that this c2 pawn is still on the board. Rook c7 protects the pawn. And when you move the queen away, black can just move somewhere, wherever, with the c1 queen and prepare to promote the pawn. It's curtains.
Yeah, queen a3 covers queen f8. I mean, even if you get queen...
Queen takes g5, queen sacrifice, because next move c1. A new queen arrives on the board.
That is nice. That is nice. Queen g5, hg5, and you just get a new queen. Nice game from Magnus. Yeah, nice defense, timely defensive moves. The most important of which was probably knight d5, which wasn't even the best move, according to chat. I don't know how chat knew, but chat somehow knew.
Chat always knows. Thank you, guys.
White had to just go for rook c4 and then a combination of two ideas. But once you allowed black to invest fully into the c-pawn and you didn't get your attack going, Magnus was able to, I mean, just stabilize the position and finish it off nicely. Yeah, nice game. Good game, Magnus. A lot of, whoa, this one's fun. Firouzja's king is on f5. Let's go to Firouzja for a second.
Absolutely. And once again, this is just the first round. So all of you fans of Hikaru, don't worry. There are 9 rounds in total. This is just the first. Yes, it's against Magnus. And yes, they are likely to be playing for the first place overall in the tournament. But there's a lot to play for in the upcoming rounds as well. So this is just the start.
And shout out to Hikaru actually popping into the chat. Again, guys, the clocks, it's the clocks are the clocks. Not much we can do about it. I'll try to get it fixed. We'll do our best. But yeah, Hikaru did say he saw rook c4, but he forgot about it, which is, yeah, that is best.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Guys, show your support to Hikaru. This is just the first round. There's so much more to play for. 8 more games in the rapid portion and 18 in the Blitz, and the overall result will count. So there's a lot more to root for, a lot more to play for. Thank you so much for all your support. So that king, Levi, how do you evaluate the king situations here? Who is doing well?
I just look at where are the possible checks, and black can check on d7, d6. I mean, one of these two moves, like on d5. I like the positioning of white's king, but this g-pawn for black is really the scary thing. And again, white is threatening to go h7.
Both pass pawns are very scary. It is true. And I feel like on g2, at least white can take that pawn. But h7, who will catch the h-pawn? Rook h1.
Oh, whoa, apparently h7 is losing.
Is it? So white is threatening mate in 1, and the engine says the evaluation bar, as you guys can see, jumped completely. This is a bad move. Let's find why. Black promotes with a check. After 97, you have to go to g5 with the king, and g1 is check.
Oh, it's check, and Alireza resigns. So h7 was a threat, but not after g2. After g2, you had to acknowledge this check, forces your king to the g file, and then you don't get to promote, and they do. Alireza has resigned. Wesley is trying to convert an endgame against Jeffrey Shang. And at the bottom left of the screen, I will put Lenier. Wait, are they?
Have they finished?
I don't.
Oh, no, this looks like they might have lost connection with our site, at least. This cannot be the position, can it?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. What?
Oh, all right, at least it was the Caracan defense. So 2 games out of 5 went in your favorite defense, Levi.
Yes! Fantastic. Now we'll just watch Wesley So try to convert against Jeffrey. That's what we're going to.
Very nice win by Aronian, but it was a crazy position against Firouzja with both players trying to promote pawns and then Firouzja missing 97 check in the end. Wesley's endgame is less crazy. It's a rook endgame where he's got 2 extra pawns.
That is very nice. He's got 1 past a pawn as well, and he's going to try to potentially play rook c7 and win a couple other pawns. Jeffrey has 14 seconds looking to defend the position. 2 minutes for Wesley on the clock.
2 minutes and 2 extra pawns. This shouldn't be a difficult task. And the rook on a3 is tied down to the defense of this pass pawn. A defense in a way that you don't want to see it being pushed further ahead. So it does take a moment, a tempo to capture on g2. But now white can
bring the king.
Yes, because then you threaten rook c5 check, rook a5 when black wants to come back. He gives the check first. I would have assumed he wanted to keep that f6 pawn
Is he going to play rook
Protecting.
a5? Rook a5 and then...
Maybe that's why he did it, yeah.
That is the idea. That's galaxy brain. Rook a5 to force rook g8. Rook coming to the defense of the pawn, and then you're not going to take anymore. Going to bring your king. That's the point here.
And the only defense for black was to bring the rook back to the back rank and block the pawn on a8. This is the only defense, but now the white king will get closer, attack the rook, and eventually win the game.
Now, the second round is going to be at 3:15 Eastern time. So we do not have a crazy long break this time around. Actually, a lot shorter. I gotta find this Linier game. I mean, our clock situation is kind of unclear, but Linier is still playing, right?
I would assume maybe if there's anyone in the chat with more information on that. I'm also checking if there's any update on that game, but no, our board doesn't show more moves, unfortunately.
Also, I think it did show that Grishuk and Nepo got 1 points instead of half for the draw. So
yeah, the rapid count is 2 points because they will have twice as many games in the Blitz. So in order to even it out, 2 points for the win, 1 point for a draw. I do see the Dominguez game being over though. Hare Krishna won with the black pieces in a minor piece endgame. The first board that he used, Levy, I can see the position there, and that's a second win, 2 out of 2 in the Caro-Kann in the first round. Levy, what do you have to say about that?
Caro OP. I mean, if you're not playing it yet, don't play it because you're going to give away the secrets. Okay, so just keep playing your nonsense e4, e5. Don't put the pawn on c6. Caro OP, 2-0 in the first round.
Caro OP, and you do have a great video on that on your YouTube channel. I heard that from PogChamp's participants. Everyone, half of the field was like, I'm studying the opening from Levy's YouTube videos, the 10-minute series.
Thank you, chat members and PogChamp's participants. Thank you. You are right. You're right, yeah. Hari won a very nice game. I don't know what the players did to deserve not being featured on the show, but and now Wesley here is trying to convert some sort of endgame with the rooks. And that's actually important. I'm not sure chat realizes this. The scoring, it wouldn't be a chess tournament if regulations were kind of unclear and tricky. Rapid 2 points for a win, 1 point for a draw. Obviously, if you lose, you get 0, like usual. But 2 points for a win. And so that's why the spreadsheet is actually broken. Grishuk and Nepo should have 1 point, but Carlsen is supposed to show it 2, and he doesn't.
Yeah, we're gonna work on that, but the different scoring system has broken our cross table. In chess, usually a win would be 1 point, but remember that this is Rapid and Blitz together, and in the Blitz, they will have a game with both colors. So in order to add up the scores, the Rapid counts twice as much as the Blitz games.
And Aronian should also show 2 points as well. Yes, Aronian did beat Firouzja. It is official. Wesley So has won against Jeffrey Xiong. We will take a short break. And when we return, we will have round 2. In 13 minutes, we have the first move to be made. And also we'll take care of any technical issues. Chat, thanks so much for being here. It's been awesome. Quick break, and we will be right back. And we're back. Appreciate your patience, everybody. If you're just joining us, we are watching the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. It's 2 days of some of the best players in the world, and the best player in the world, competing in first a rapid format of 25 minutes and 10-second bonus. Anna, not the start that we wanted here on the Hikaru channel, right?
Yes, people call us biased, but we are covering the event on Hikaru's channel, so you guys need to understand that if the Warlord goes down, we are going down too. The ship is sinking a little bit, but it's only the first game, so there's a lot more to play. And the Hikaru started with a very promising position. I'm sure that he's kicking himself because he had a great chance After the opening moves, it did look like Hikaru was confident. He had a very promising position, but maybe he just didn't choose the right move order. We'll talk to him after the games when he joins us. But for now, what we know is that round 2 is about to start in a few minutes, and we've got the following pairings: Hikaru with the white pieces against Wesley So, the Fischer Random World Champion Wesley So, and teammate of Hikaru on the Olympic team of the United States. Levi, do remind us on the little bit of a banter beef. I don't know how shall I label it, that the two
Banter
have
beef.
between each other. Banter beef banter, friends, frenemies, enemies. What's the best tag? Let's do the first hot take of the day.
Yeah, well, Hikaru and Wesley have not like some sort of crazy history, but I did talk about this in the Fisher Random portion of the Champion Showdown. Even though this event doesn't have the same name, I thought the whole thing was called Champion Showdown. It's actually not the case at all. It was Champion Showdown 9LX, and now it's just St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. So I thought it was the Champion Showdown St. Louis Rapid and Blitz, but it's not. The champions already played. They're done.
I don't understand. I thought the whole thing was the Champion Showdown. 9LX and Rapid and Blitz are the formats.
Yeah.
I'm confused, but it's great that we are confused together. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and being confused with us.
Now that we are back on the subject of banter beef, there is just some, Hikaru and Wesley So have played each other in the finals of the final two Speech as Champion, the last two Speech as Championships, which occurred. And the story that I told last time was Hikaru getting a noise complaint from the hotel room, not directly from Wesley So, but potentially hotel room. Wesley So, and I don't know who else was in there, but I don't believe it was. I got very angry chat response, by the way, the last time I told the story. They were like, "It was not Wesley," and I was like, "I don't know how you knew that, but sorry." So there's a little bit, and obviously Olympic teammates, as Anna has said. Relatively wholesome, though, I think, for the most part, and just two competitors that enjoy going at it.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a storyline between the two, but in general, they are teammates, and they have won the Olympic gold together in Baku 2016, the chess Olympiad, after over 4 decades of the United States not winning gold medal at a chess Olympiad. They did it together, so that's quite something. But I'm pretty sure that they will be ready to fight against each other for one reason or the other. You always want to prove that you are the better player.
Yeah, I generally don't really have the ability to do that, but I try my best. You do want to prove that you're the better player. I don't know what their head-to-head score is. I'm sure that they have played probably at this point close to like 200 games, if not more, against each other. And we will probably have the games live about 2 or 3 minutes after they launch officially. That's just part of the relay delay. We don't host the games on chess.com. We take them from websites where the tournament is actually being hosted. That is generally the protocol. So chat, if you see some games are starting and we don't have them, we know. Have the games should be starting within 60 seconds, and for us in about 100 seconds.
Which means that we have more time to cover the rest of the pairings, because there are 10 players in the field, of course, and so far we only mentioned Hikaru versus Wesley. Magnus Carlsen won his first game against Hikaru and will be facing Jan Nepomniachtchi. Now, there's also quite a storyline between these two. Levi?
Magnus and Jan, well, what would you point to for like the exact history? Just the fact that like they played right in the final of the last Rapid event, is that right?
Yes, and also the two get along very well, and I don't know how often or how regularly, but it does seem to be the case that Jan was working with Magnus or helping Magnus for earlier tournaments, maybe even the World Championship. But the two are friends. They do like to hang out or just tweet at each other. Depends on what's the context. But when it comes to chess, there's no such thing as friendship. So just because they are buddies, I think among this field, if Magnus had to choose, Nepomniachtchi is one of his best friends in this field. But it doesn't mean that Magnus will not want to beat him. It just doesn't.
No, there are no friends in chess. Even if you don't have to play against each other, it's all, secretly pointing out who might be your enemy in the future. No, if you're not competing, friendship is, it's all part of the game, and at the end of the day, it's actually friendship in like most games that is like the overarching theme. Like I remember I grew up watching a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Somehow it was always friendship. Didn't matter if a guy was trying to take over the world, it was friendship that got you past that chapter. And like the friends and friends and friends. I don't know if chess is the same, but pretty wholesome.
That is wholesome. That is wholesome. And of course, all of these players, top players at chess, and I would assume at other sports too, they are competitors at tournaments, but they get along outside the tournaments, and they often work together because in order to improve your chess at this high level, you usually form a team, you train with other top grandmasters, you have them as your seconds, you play maybe practice Blitz rapid games with them or Fischer random for the earlier event. So it's very often that we see them playing together for the purpose of training, for the purpose of getting better at this game called chess.
Game called chess, indeed. We've got game feeds in. Hikaru playing the anti-Petrov with 3d3. I can't say that I have seen that at this level.
Yeah, that's not the most common. The Petrov or the Russian defense in this knight f6 move is a very solid opening for black, but d3 is not a common response. Yet it leads to an interesting position. Of course, the drawback of pushing d3 is that black has the option of advancing the d pawn to d5 at an early stage of the game, which Wesley has done already.
Yes, exactly. And now, I mean, we kind of just have a King's Indian structure more than anything else is what White has with this kind of central trade, the bishop on g2. Hikaru just looking for a unique position. What black is doing completely okay. Anna, I want to draw your attention to Magnus Carlsen versus Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Sure, let me see. The frenemies. Oh, nice. Now that's what I call an interesting starting position. h5 on move 3 by Jan Nepomniachtchi against his buddy Magnus Carlsen.
You love to see it. h5. Yeah, this is don't just play this move randomly. Jan wants to play h4 and kind of start instigating. And obviously, if you take, then you're damaging your structure. Your bishop no longer has a house with a roof. Roof is good for a house. Just in case we were trying to learn things. Magnus might go h3 or h4. It's not quite clear yet.
Well, Magnus could say stop there and push h4, or also claim that, you know what, I'm not scared of your h5 push, go ahead and push h4 as well. That takes 2 tempi, you're only pushing a pawn, while I can take that time to develop my pieces, and let's move knight c3 or knight f3. If knight f3, that move does cover the h4 square, but it kind of provokes black to push e4 if he wishes. He could go e4 there.
Putting Hikaru on our kind of permanent station. Why I'm not doing too much here with the main board, but we do have Hikaru, and I think our final game has been put up. So I will look at this game for now. Or I suppose since Magnus is still thinking, then just go around. Is there anything else that's interesting? Yeah, well, we have.
Let me take a tour.
We should probably explain why Levon Aronian broke Ben Feingold's rule. That we,
the F-pawn, forget about it. Well, this is a line, and in closed positions, and usually d4 openings lead to more of a closed nature than e4 openings. So in closed positions, this move can be okay, but I would still not recommend it to beginners because it does weaken the king, but there's no way of black to exploit it. The queen is not appearing on h4 with a check, and even then there would be a g3 push.
Yes.
So you gotta be very careful with these f3 or f4 pushes, not for those of you who are just starting out with chess, I don't recommend it for sure.
We already see some crazy fighting in the center here with the pawns. C5, D5, B5, E4, D6. There's like tension and defense and tension and heartbreak. It's basically a game of Among Us here with these pawns. You know, who's the imposter and who do we kick out? Black is gonna potentially take on C3 to damage your structure to make you double your pawns. There's also ideas where you can like sack the knight and come in with the queen on H4. It's a weird game that can unfold. Anything else? Hare Krishna. Last game, we literally didn't look at a few people, so I just want to give everybody a little screen time, and then we will park it on the Hikaru game. This is just standard, right? From Hare and Fallujah. Queen's Gambit declined.
Yes, yeah, still in an opening preparation, I would assume, even if Hare Krishna has taken some time to make his first 9 moves, this is still theory.
Still theory. It's a Queen's Gambit declined. Another video on the Gotham Chess YouTube channel. Okay, plugs are over. Queen's Gambit is so solid for beginners, for black and white alike. It gets all your pieces out and it helps you develop. Then you start learning the advanced wrinkles once you get to like 2000 or something. Jeffrey versus Linier. Okay, we're 11 moves in, Anna, and Linier Dominguez has 25-36. He starts with 25-00.
Yes, that's correct. That is the time situation. Meaning that Dominguez is very well prepared. Usually this means that he has on the board the exact same opening he expected, or the exact same opening that he, even if he didn't expect it for this game, he is very sure of his opening line here in the Ruy Lopez.
Yeah, so far so good. For Linier, he plays the move f6, trying to get this pawn out of the way. Maybe you'll take with the queen. But queen weakens d5. What is he going to take with? He's going to take with the... Hold on, actually. If you take on f6... What is happening? If you go back with the knight, I take your bishop for free. If you take with the rook... I guess it's rook, right? Because there's no bishop g5.
Are we trying to refute opening theory?
I don't know. What is the theoretical move here for white?
I know I had looked at this ages ago. So no, actually probably it wasn't the exact same position, but I had studied the open Spanish, yet I have forgotten most of that knowledge, Levy.
Okay, all right.
But it's theory. It's theory. Well, let's trust Dominguez. He played it without thinking.
That's true. That's true. But just like we talked about in sub battle, it's not all about opening theory. You got to include time, space, and harmony into your chess lessons. Time, space, and harmony.
Time, space, and harmony. So much easier than remembering moves and lines. Time, space, and harmony.
Yeah. Speaking of time, space, and harmony, what is Hikaru's rook doing on b5?
Well, that's a great question, Levy, and I like it. That rook might swing over to d5 or just simply camp on b5, putting pressure on the e5 pawn because e5 is always hanging even if it looks like it's not. I would slightly be worried that that rook is not protected, and if there can be any moves that will create a discovered attack, such as a knight jump, but if black plays knight d4, we have rook d5 attacking the queen and the knight will be hanging. So there's no tactical motive that can exploit this, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree. So you're saying knight d4, rook takes b6, right?
Oh, that's probably a better move.
No, but rook d5.
I just thought that no tactical motive can work when you have a tempo with the rook. But rook takes b6 too is of course a move that should refute knight d4.
Does look pretty spicy. Wesley, do you think Wesley so enjoys spicy food? We need to make some sort of conversation while he thinks. Yeah, what do you think? Who do you think in this tournament has the highest tolerance to spicy food?
So who would attend the show, the hot ones, and get through the questions and eat all the spicy food?
Who would be the champion of hot ones?
The champion of hot ones. I definitely would pick Hikaru and Pantala. Ooh, wow, this is difficult. Levi, what's your take on this? Very important question. Chat, we need to focus on this topic because this is serious.
I'm gonna go with the sleeper candidate. I'm gonna go with Jeffrey Xiong. I feel like Jeffrey just loves spicy food. I mean, it's the hottest take. No pun intended. But like, he's like a low key kind of guy. He's just climbing the U.S. rankings. Trying to get into top 20 in the world. But he like secretly just loves spicy food, and no one talks about it.
I think this is definitely a question that we need to debate further in the chat. So we do encourage you guys to continue over this topic. I don't know if we can bring back our cross table or the pairings to show the names again to remind you who are the participants of this separate competition for the hot ones.
Oh, separate competition? No. Sadly, I do not have that. But we do have a little pink splotch there at the top of the scoreboard. Someone's cursor.
Sure.
So,
so there are the names. There you have it. Choose the player that would be the. I was gonna say an inappropriate thing, so I stopped myself. Who would be the best at eating hot food?
what were you gonna say?
I was gonna shorten the whole thing with the hot word, but no, we should not objectify anybody. So no, Anna, no.
Got it. Okay, that was like a very, very small, slip up there. Let me show what's going on in this Magnus game and put Hikaru on the bottom left for a second. Anna, what is this? We've had beginners watching. I mean, kids, this is like, it's like when parents want to watch a movie. You got to go to bed. Like, the R-rated film. What is this?
I mean, from move 3 on, this has been a crazy interesting game with Nepomniachtchi pushing h5, and then he decided to push that pawn further because Magnus said, I don't mind if you advance that pawn. So Nepomniachtchi did advance h4 and then h3 as well. And then he sacrificed the pawn with e4 because the e-pawns are always hanging. And knight jump to e5, trades and such, winning the c-pawn. I'm just trying to digest all of this. What is going on here?
I don't know. So Magnus said, dude, you could take on f3. Whoops. You could take on f3, but then I'm going to have an extra pawn. So Nepo took this, and now Magnus goes like knight takes f6, queen takes f6, and is saying that this pawn on h3 doesn't really matter. So I'm going to play knight d5, hit your queen in this pawn, and now Nepo has to play either queen d6 or queen e5, and he blitzes out queen d6.
He blitzes it out because the queen had to protect the c7 square and avoid a fork. Queen to c6 would have stepped into that long diagonal where the bishop on f3 is already very cozy and dangerous. So that was a no, even if there was nothing immediate, it still looks terrifying. Now, what's the follow-up for Magnus? That knight on d5 is brilliant. The bishop on f3, great. Will he castle, or will he try to develop his queen side?
I'm not sure. I would probably castle queenside. Is my first instinct. I was also going to look through the database to see if this has ever been played, and as of move 6, this is a brand new position, which is so funny. Like, that is... The English is one of the most theoretically explored openings on planet Earth. Earlier today, I played against a Russian player. I was playing some Blitz, and 3 games in a row, he played the move c4 against me. So what I like to do for fun is I like to go through players' database, and I see how much they play a certain opening. c4, This guy had played 619 out of 620 games, c4.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot.
That's dedication, right?
It is full dedication.
Yeah, but move 6, we have a brand new theory here. So that's just to show you that out of hundreds of thousands of games, we get this. And I don't know. This is history, chat. Welcome.
It's absolutely history, but even then, how do we see the current position? Because it's very creative what Nepomniachtchi is doing with the H pawn, but is it good, his plan?
Who knows? Who knows if it's good? Oh
Out
wait,
of
that.
principle, it shouldn't be, because the center is the most important part of the board. So pushing flank pawns is something that we recommend you do not do. Of course, here he was trying to weaken the king side, and he did to some extent manage to do that. The light squares on the king side for Magnus, they have become more vulnerable, but the bishop on f3 is doing a great job guarding them.
Yeah, the pawn move from Nepo is natural to kick this knight out. I refreshed the page just so we had live clocks. I don't know what happened there. I think the clocks were live, but all of a sudden decided to freeze. But that's the beauty of a chess broadcast. Hikaru, looking at the little board, got an interesting transformation of a pawn structure. I don't know how good it is, but it.
I moved back on my board and I saw knight d4 because that's a line that we were analyzing. I was like, geez, did that actually happen? That would have been a losing move. But I'm just catching up with the current position. And yeah, I think that trade on e3, allowing f takes e3, that's something I would feel like that white is normally interested in. That it does create this 4-pawn mess, which are not too advanced, those pawns on the third rank, three of them, but they are strong together. They are guarding a lot of important squares, and it does open up the f file for white. Not that rook f1 leads to anything, but maybe in the future. What do you think of this structure, Levy?
A very, very imbalanced position. Like, pawn structure is completely different. The plans for the players are completely different. The blob, the central Tetris piece that Hikaru has here, with c2, c3, d3, e3. My instinct tells me that pawn from c3 to c4 is the way you want to play it, to fight for d5 and then also to open up the queen. But I like Black's position. Although the plan on the queen side could be quite interesting as well. I mean, like a5 and c4 and a5 for white. But Black's position is a bit more solid. Wait. The draw.
Already? Okay.
Yeah, wait, what?
Well, it's an unclear position. Maybe Hikaru.
Well,
Oh no, it wasn't Hikaru who offered. Knight e7 and Wesley offered a draw.
Wesley offered a draw with knight e7.
Okay. Well, I think that's a fair result. The position is unclear, but if anyone is more comfortable, I would say Wesley's position is very natural and harmonious, while Hikaru's structure and setup is not that comfortable. So it certainly is a good result. I'm sure that Hikaru wanted more. He had the white pieces again, but you cannot just wish for a win. The position itself is not promising for white.
Strange. Definitely a little bit strange. I don't know. But you do?
Yeah, we'll
And draw
talk
grade.
to Hikaru about these games and how he felt. What's also important, I think, a lot of times that there's not much time between games. So Hikaru has just lost a very important game against Magnus, and it was just about 15-20 minutes until he had to start his new game. What a lot of experienced players would do in situations like this is to, if necessary, go a bit solid or more solid than usual in the next game to stop the bleeding and then focus on the rest of the game. So you need to stop, forget about the game, but if necessary, it also happens that you just go solid in the next game. Now I don't know if it was Hikaru's mentality for this game or he just didn't get the right position out of the opening, because the one he has on the board right now is not something that he would want to play for a win. Even if he wishes, this position is not advantageous.
I was a little bit perplexed by the draw offer, at least from Wesley's side. That is the most interesting. Like,
Yeah.
Hikaru said that he felt like the position was too imbalanced, so he decided maybe Wesley felt the same way. Wesley could have totally felt the same way, but it's just interesting. I think if Wesley I don't know. There's two sides to the logic of Wesley offering the draw. Number one, he's not thrilled with the position. Offers the draw. Perhaps Hikaru feels a different way. The second one is the second mentality. It's not that Wesley doesn't like his position, but he views it in a similar way. And he goes, it could be a little bit too risky. Let me offer a draw, see how my opponent feels about the game. Even though maybe I could play the imbalance in the position. They kind of agreed.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure that Hikaru will tell us more about how he felt about this draw offer, and if it was his position with the black pieces, would he even consider offering a draw? That would be another interesting talking point. So we're gonna get to hear about all that from Hikaru when he joins us. But there's one more round and the remaining games because Hikaru finishes round 2 game, but there are more players in the field.
And what is Nepo doing? Like, the man has made 14 moves. Almost a third of them have been with the queen. His knight's on c4, his pawn's on h3.
What's scary is that he does all this with almost no thinking. So the starting time is 25 minutes. He used way less time than Magnus, but Magnus is the one who has advantage here. White's position should be better. You have more pieces developed, and he has many moves with the pawns, the knight, and the queen. Those are the 3 pieces that Nepomniachtchi has been moving. It's all the factors, all the type of moves that we tell beginners not to do. And then when we cover these top grandmaster games, we just need to sit back, take a deep breath, and explain why is it okay here. But I just cannot do it here, Levy. I don't think this is good. It cannot be. Can it be good?
I know, we've got to be like, listen, I know this is how you're taught, but the Grandmaster
I pulled out my earphone by mistake, so I couldn't hear you for a moment. I'm back.
No, I was just saying it's like the beginner starter package with chess is like, all right, here you go. Here's your free YouTube content. Here's the chess.com basics article. You know, here's the website to play on. Here's a subscription to GM Hikaru, Anna Chess, and Gotham Chess on Twitch. Either you get a gift or maybe you sub yourself. Throw that Twitch Prime. But it's not even called that anymore. Your Prime Gaming subscription. But the Grandmaster, the Grandmaster starter package, Anna, it's like, you do whatever you want. You make your own rules. Like, look, Nepo is now opening the center. Like, Nepo plays d5, e4, and opens the center while his king is right here. I just don't understand.
I don't understand any of it. Also, well, bishop takes is logical, but I just felt like knight takes seemed even more promising for the fact that you're jumping toward the center than rook e1 and all sorts of discovered checks, double checks. I wonder if bishop takes e4. Is there a specific line where that choice is better than knight takes?
Maybe Magnus thinks that he has d5. Maybe this is the idea. He's just going to shred the position. But d5, I think, could run into long castle. Well, let's put it this way. If you don't have long castles, I'm pretty sure you must be in trouble. I mean, c takes d5. And then maybe you have long castles here.
Maybe.
Computer's not agreeing with me, but what I'm trying to say is you have to long castle. That's what you have to do.
Yeah. I'm still confused by Magnus's choice in terms of why bishop takes, or if he had rook e1, because it feels like he had a couple of options in that position that could be appealing, and the evaluation bar still shows some advantage for white, but not as much as before.
Yeah, I think at some point you also and he's just gone for it. Eval bar is going on its usual roller coaster. It actually gets a formulated and respectable opinion of the position by depth 25 and 30, and I can't constantly run that because probably my computer would just crash. So
yeah.
Anna, let's go around. I feel bad for some of these other grandmasters that we just don't look at.
Certainly. of course, we have some of the best players in the world, and we need to take a look at the rest of the field too. Aronian versus Grishuk. What is the king situation here?
We're playing Fisher random. That's why the king is on d1. Yeah, and he actually can move his. No, he moved his king. He his king in this Nimso. And why did he move his king? Okay,
just when we explain that this f3 in this line is okay, even though we tend to tell you guys, if you're starting out, which is don't push the f pawn, it weakens your king. But he didn't go g3. That was our line, that it's okay if you get a check g3 and then you can still castle. He didn't.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. He decides to play king d1, and this is a nice move, queen f4. Looking for the queen trade if Grishuk had obliged here. Levon would just be a pawn up. Grishuk goes back, and remember guys, Levon is up a pawn, but the eval is -1, which means that Grishuk's position is so promising. It's basically 2 points of advantage. Yeah. And that could be for a variety of reasons. I mean, queen a5, queen a4, f5 to open the position up for this rook. Grishuk, king h8, of course, logical. A move that literally I don't understand at all. Why did he go king h8? Why did he go king h8?
Oh, well.
Prophylactic move, preparing.
Yeah. Now, usually those moves are played because there would be a threat toward the king, and you want to get ready for a pawn push like f5. So you're getting your king out of the a2, g8 diagonal.
Yeah, Levon, okay. Yes, everything that Anna said is the exact reason. My job is to act theatrical and like a papega, and Anna is supposed to go, well, you play king h8, for this and this reason. Yeah, I think now the point is that f5, your king is no longer on this diagonal, so there's no checks, right? And knight e7 is never a problem. I would not be surprised if f5 just wins for black. Like, what do you do about the knight on d4?
That knight on d4 is worth more than any other minor piece. You could say that the d5 knight is doing the same job, and it's a nice outpost for the knight. But the problem for white is mainly the king. It's stuck in the middle of the board. So f5, as Levi suggested, would start opening up the position. And the more open the position, the less likely you will find shelter for this king. In the middle of the board, it's going to be attacked, and you're going to lose material, or you're going to get mated. Those are usually the options that result in such a poor king's safety. I still am puzzled why Aronian didn't want to play g3 and moved king d1 instead, leading to this situation where he cannot castle anymore. So castling rules. Levi, reminder, can he castle ever?
Levon?
Yes.
He could try. If it's an over the board tournament,
legal?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I trust me, I have seen many Scholastic games where the king moves and then the kid goes, "Oh, I can short castle," and plays, king b1, rook c1, and just very confidently castles. Game goes on. In their notation, they write castle, and I go, "What do you mean you castled?" And they're like, "I castled," and I'm like, "Your king moved," and they're like, "Oh, I broke the rules." And I was like, wait, so how did you castle? Did you play king c1, rook d1, or did you play? And they're like, I played king b1. And then the game just continues as if like the king is on b1, rook is on c1. This is the beauty of being a teacher, is that kids just bring, it's like a cat bringing something from the yard. They're like, look, this is what I did. And then you have to just go from there. Serious question. If we could edit this position and Levon had king b1, rook c1, his position probably gets even worse. What do you think?
Because the A and B files are open, so black's attack would still be really strong. But yes, what Levi was telling you guys about is totally true. At over the board tournaments, all sorts of jams like that happen, but the computer will not even let you try to do it. So it's illegal to castle after you have moved the king. You can forget about castling forever.
Which is why it's so dangerous. Our round by round editor. This is our full cross table. It's why it's so dangerous to in this position to be a Levon Aronian, because like, what do you do? How are you going to defend this position?
I so don't understand why he went king d1. It's just the most puzzling thing ever when you know that you will be stuck in a position like this. I just feel like both for Levon Aronian, King D1, and Nepomniachtchi with that aggressive H push, H pawn push, and then the queen and knight maneuvers, like lots of moves wasted on that. These are some of the best players in the world, but somehow they are channeling the PogChamps vibes because I think they are missing the event. I think they are missing the event, and they want to remind us that we had positions like this in PogChamps. I know I shouldn't make fun of them. They are so much stronger than I could ever be. But I don't understand it. Why King D1?
Don't know. Might be an ode to who didn't castle in PogChamps. Anybody?
Oh, I mean, most participants were very happy to cast us. I think that was like first mission accomplished. They were very proud of themselves, and we were very proud as coaches when they castled. But there were plenty of kings getting into trouble, and just the flank pawn pushes, getting the queen out too early. All those are basically against the basic principles. But as we said, top grandmasters are here to show the exception to the rule. What worries me is that Levon Aronian's position doesn't even seem to be an exception. It just seems to be plain bad.
I quickly jumped to Hare Krishna and Jeffrey Xiong's games, but they are looking more or less balanced. Jeffrey and Linye. Okay, I mean, Jeffrey's queen is under attack. My big hot take of the round is that the queen on c7 is going to move. I don't know.
That's a hot take.
That's my hot take. I think Jeffrey will be moving his queen potentially to e7. One of these squares. But yeah, definitely the last exciting two games are Levon Aronian's game, which I will put in the bottom of the screen, and I will put the big board on Magnus Carlsen.
Sure.
Magnus, apparently, I saw someone in chat say blundered rook d8. I mean, I don't think you blunder rook d8. I think you just... Maybe, did he think that the only move was long castle?
Oh, goodness me. Now that's huge. That would be a huge mistake by the world champion, because castle queenside is more natural, but then he would have had bishop takes e6 check, and now that it's only rook d8, so the king stayed on e8, he cannot get the bishop out of the pin. Has he actually blundered this? That would be huge.
That's true, yeah. You guys remember, I was suggesting long castles. I wasn't even thinking about rook d8. You know, for me, I always blunder the opposite. I always see the rook move, but not long castle. I have to remind myself that long castles in a position is possible. But here, I was just thinking we need to get the king out of the center. Like that, my brain was like, we need to castle long. And then I didn't even think about rook d8. But it's probably the better move, because otherwise your king would be on that square. And now, chat, you have to remember, rook d8 is rook d8. The castle, you need to drag your king to the castling square. Magnus plays queen e2, so now we're going to get rook d5. Rook d5, not knight d5. Surely we're going to get rook d5, queen takes knight.
Exactly, but now when the rook moves, that's a discovered attack.
Rook d1, gangster move. I don't actually... Is rook d1 good or bad?
That's a gangster move. Whether it's good or bad, I like it. The queen will be hanging, so white cannot take the rook on d1. What are we achieving anything is the question.
I don't know. But, Anna, I predict Nepo plays rook h5. Not now, but he's going to bring his second rook into the game via h5. That's my prediction. That would be... I mean, you just got to love Nepo's style.
Yeah.
Rook d8, rook d5, rook h5. He leaves the king in the center. He plays h5, h4. He plays queen f6, queen d6, queen b4, queen a5. He's better. He's better.
I so didn't understand the beginning of this game, and we were explaining why those flank pawn moves normally don't work. It was an interesting idea, but I still think that Magnus had a great position after that trade happened on e4. Maybe he just didn't choose the more accurate, the most accurate line there. I feel like there was a mischance there for Magnus, but now the current position, you're right, Levy. If that AJ rook will join the game through the 5th rank, then This is a very unique position, super creative. But kudos to Jan Nepomniachtchi for going for something this original against the world champion.
Oh, he played a slightly less gangster move, Rook E5. I saw Hikaru said he was playing Minesweeper and is watching. I was looking for a creative way to say the name of that show, but I'm just gonna. He's watching Scheitz Creek, which is the German version. He's watching the German edition of the actual show. But fun thing that we're gonna try to do, ladies and gentlemen, with Hikaru there, we're gonna try in the future to get a Hikaru cam, so
Please.
that on our broadcast we get to see him. That might have to be a second webcam. It's just gonna be his face. He might potentially will set it up in such a way that he's on a different call. I'm not saying we have gotten approval for this, but some of these folks gotta lighten up a little bit,
Yeah. No, I would love to have a special Hikaru cam for us, because obviously the players are on camera on the official broadcast, but we are here on Hikaru's channel, so I think it would be great if it was allowed that Hikaru can have a second camera for his show. Let's hope that it will be approved, because we're gonna try our best to have a Hikaru cam for you guys.
And he needs to break the fourth wall in the middle of his game. He needs to turn to our camera, just like in Deadpool, just talk directly to the audience.
Yes.
Yeah, that definitely would be fun. There is a way to, I think you can run the same camera in OBS.
Oh yeah, the virtual cam. I did that already for earlier broadcast. Yes, so he should be able to do that if he's allowed to do it.
I don't know how to do it. I would just get a second camera. I will be making a camera upgrade soon. I'm gonna say bye-bye to this Logitech and hello to the one with the fancy letters, 9LX or whatever.
Ooh, Levi, that would be awesome. You're upgrading your studio. You deserve a streamer studio. Not that I don't like your current setup with the paintings in the background, the art collector showing off there. But I'm just saying, cameras are great. I'm a fan. I'm just a photography nerd, so whenever it comes to cameras, I'm geeking.
Yeah, I don't take photographs of myself or much of anything else because I'm too good at it, and I'm always like, it looks good, and then I show it to someone who takes photos. They're like, bro. But I'm also kind of impatient. I'm like, all right, one picture, done.
It's so much easier nowadays with smartphones. I think most of us just take photos with our phones. Even if we have better equipment, it's just the device you always have on you. So it's way easier. But we will, of course, try our best to have a Hikaru cam for you guys. That's the main point. Levi upgrading his studio equipment. Hikaru may be able to use his camera for our show as well. That would be amazing.
We have two positions with a rook on e5. I'm a little bored, so I'm just finding similar sequences. It's the same rook. It's like 5D chess. Yes.
Patterns.
The Magnus game and the Levon game, the same rook is on e5. So this game is actually relaxing a little bit. Magnus's game, rook is standing confidently and boldly on e5. The queen on c5. Bishop is on e6. I like Dempo's position. I like both of their positions. Is that bad? I like both of their positions.
Yeah, why not? Both of them are winning. Is your evaluation? Hot take.
No. Two people can't both be winning. The audience is winning. No. I just like both their positions. I think they both have good winning chances. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. The position is so complex that it's anyone's game. The black king is still on e8, so that is an issue for Nepomniachtchi. At the same time, his pieces have become really active, and he has traded the light squared bishop of Magnus, which means that this pawn on h3 suddenly is a king on the board. If you get rid of the queen on f3, there will be all sorts of mate threats on g2.
Yes, there will. You almost want to get rid of it. Hey, self-capture chess, anybody? See, self-capture chess here would be great. You play bishop takes h3, move the bishop back. Black's position improves. It's maybe not quite improves, but because white can somehow try to defend. But this is why I love self-capture chess, because you don't have to rely on your opponent giving you attacking options. You just take your own piece. I think self-capture is my favorite. Did you look at that whole AlphaZero thing? What is your favorite?
No, I still couldn't read through it. I of course mainly focused on the ones about the castling, as that was something that caught my attention when Kramnik mentioned it earlier last year or even before. So that's something that I was the most curious about. But yes, there are so many variants or possible changes in the rules of chess that they were observing and analyzing with AlphaZero. If you guys have missed, there is a new AlphaZero paper out there published by DeepMind. It came out last Thursday, meaning that it's just like it's been out there for 4 or 5 days only. And Vladimir Kramnik, former world champion, has contributed to the paper. I do have a comment for that on my channel. I think Hikaru did talk about AlphaZero 2, which you can check in the VODs or on his YouTube channel. As well as on Levy's. I think Levy also has a video. Whew, I need to give a shout
out. My story of I was really excited to make that video, and I think it could have gotten good traction. But YouTube is weird, and so I took a day off from streaming. I didn't time the launch of the video right, and it was the worst performing video of the month. It was just so bad, because sometimes it just doesn't show it as much. If your other video is doing well, it'll feature that one. So.
Exactly. YouTube is tricky, the algorithm and such. I never understand it. When I expect the video to do well, usually it doesn't do well, and videos I don't think they will do so well may just perform so much better. So I don't understand myself.
Yeah, also the Magnus game is really confusing, not just YouTube. That was not even supposed to be a poor transition back to the chess. It's actually looking pretty bad for Nepo, because Rook is under attack, and it doesn't look very pleasant.
Yes, how do you deal with this? The Rook doesn't have so many options, because you do want to keep the C file under control so that white cannot place the Rook on C1 with a tempo, attacking the queen.
I'm not liking this for Nepo. It looks a little bit annoying to defend. Jeffrey Zhang and Lenier Dominguez, meanwhile, have drawn their game. Two very solid competitors.
Yeah, that game ended. Did it end? Oh, okay. No, sorry, I was still on an earlier move. But it was a theoretical battle in the Open Spanish that ended in a draw. The games that are still on fire, well, this one between Magnus Carlsen and Nepomniachtchi, and of course Levon Aronian's king on d1, which is still a huge target for Grishuk's attack.
Yes, it is. Let's pull that one up on the big screen. I was looking to add the result to our cross table, but Nathan F314, not to be confused with the other 313, has already beaten me to that. Meanwhile, Firouzja is going to put some pressure here on Hari. He's got a slightly better position because of this weak pawn on d5, but it's not an endgame that you're going to be winning at this level. Yeah, Levon's king is on d1, and Grishuk just played d5, attacking the bishop. Again, Anna, you would love to take your own pawn on d5 here, because you just opened the file. It's just straight down to the king. Yo, plebs, welcome back. How we doing? How's our energy? Appreciate your support of the channel.
Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Once again, this is only the first day of the Rapid and Blitz. We're going to be here for 5 days in total. There are so many more rounds to look forward to. 9 rounds of Rapid, 18 rounds of Blitz chess, and combined results will count for the overall score. $250,000 at stake.
And the reason the score cross table is looking a little bit weird, everybody, let me just tell you how to read this thing. Wow, bishop b5 is a funny move, by the way. It's not a hanging of a bishop, because the rook on e5 would be under attack. The way you read this is that every player receives a seed number. And that seed number, when you're in a round robin, dictates your opponents for the entire duration of the event. And I do have the pairings. I will show them for the end of the show. But in the Rapid, they have given 2 points for a win and 1 point for a draw. And Anna, they do that. You're more experienced than I am at all this scoring stuff. Do you have a reason why they do that, or you don't quite know? Is it supposed to incentivize winning? Because I think it plays out the same way, no?
No, so in this case, we have this system because of the Blitz. So in order to add together the two results, at Blitz, we will have twice as many games. And so they count one Blitz game for 1 point, but altogether you have 18 Blitz games. And to balance that out in the Rapid, one win in Rapid is 2 points, if that makes sense. Am I explaining myself?
Chat, are we good?
So you can get the same amount of points for the Rapid and the same amount of points for the Blitz, but in Blitz there are twice as many games because you play with both colors. And for that reason, we have 2 points for a win at Rapid, 1 point for a win in Blitz.
Okay. But soccer scoring for chess is my favorite. I'm just going to say, I love the scoring of 3, 1, and 0, because that incentivizes winning. So people will play in a bit more bold fashion. I actually think soccer should football scoring for the more cultured. I'm an American, all right? I say soccer.
That's okay. That's all right. We get it here in Europe as well, even if it's football. But no, go ahead, Levi. Why do you think that scoring system is the one we should use at chess as well?
Well, because like 2-1-0 is the same. It's the same split, right? Like if you get 3 versus 1, 2 draws don't equal a win anymore. So people are gonna want to win. People are gonna want to not lose or draw, and they're gonna play a bit more exciting. And
that's something that a couple of tournaments have been experimenting with. For instance, Norway Chess was always one of the pioneers when it comes to changing the format to make it more exciting and more in the way of decisive results. So they did experiment with different scoring system. And also last year, when the classical game would be drawn, they ended up making the players play an Armageddon, so that there would be a result. Someone would come out as a winner, even if the classical game was a draw.
I feel bad because the game between Magnus and Nepo is now no longer super exciting. It's kind of becoming an endgame that Magnus is going to try to play in his usual way for a win. So we're going to leave it on Levon versus Grishuk, which is pandemonium. The Magnus endgame is on the bottom left. Nobody wants to watch a queen and 2 rook endgame with an extra pawn for Magnus. I do think Magnus will find a way to win it, because that is not... Nepo does not want to play a position like that against Magnus. He might do something crazy. He might just lose.
True, that is true. I still don't get the entirety of the game between Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi. It felt like Magnus was doing great in the opening, then he missed something out of the e4 push, and rook d8 was perhaps a move that he literally blundered. He must have calculated castle queenside. So lots of turning points in that game. But for now, I think, Levi, you're right. Magnus will be grinding, trying to win this slightly better endgame. While for Levon Aronian, this is not grinding. This is about survival. Can the king on d1 survive?
Oh man, I don't know. I do not know. It is not looking pleasant. The queen has arrived on g5. It's saying, what's up? And it's yelling down this way. And she's looking real aggressive. I would not like to play white in that position. I'd much rather play with the black piece, I'm not gonna lie. Queen g5. It looks so much more fun to play. Just throw all your pieces forward. Ugh. Does not look nice.
What happens if white takes on d4?
Oh,
d4. That's a concrete line.
Queen g2?
Okay, yeah, I think that's that's perhaps the end of the story. Because if you just take back on d4, at least white has some time to organize a defense. But queen takes g2 is a really strong intermediate move. And then you will take back on d4 if I move rook e1, c takes d4, attacks the queen. So I don't have time to even force a trade.
I don't know what you do. I don't. Oh, and that is it's on the board.
Is that?
Yeah, knight d4, queen g2. There it is. The commentators battling it out here, and so are the players. Anna said this doesn't look good. Don't play it.
Well, maybe there was nothing better though, because Aronian's position was already so bad that this might be his best shot.
Whoa, what just happened? Queen g2, rook f1, and he played c takes d4. Why did the eval shift the other way? I don't understand. Like, wasn't this all the natural stuff?
I think the evaluation was just catching up unless you have spotted something, Levy.
I didn't spot a damn thing. The computer is a scumbag. That's what I just spotted. C takes d4 is inaccurate, as now apparently white is creating a defensive fortress, and instead, get to go here. Get to go pawn to c4, disconnecting the bishop from the rook.
What? So, in that position, black is a piece down, and instead of taking that knight on d4, which is hanging, the computer says, we don't need that piece, push the pawn to c4, and black is winning with a piece down.
Because there's no way to guard this rook. You're literally the only way to protect this rook is to play the move rook e1, and apparently after I take, you cannot play king takes, because I will win your rook on the g line, and if you play queen takes e1, I take on b2, and you lose material. I mean, it's so bad that Grishuk missed that. I mean, he's out of form. It's time to retire. He should have played c4. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. No, I mean, that's a crazy move.
Crazy line. I don't think they will ever think about this. Maybe after the end of today's rounds, Grishuk will check his game with the engine and then discover it, but that's certainly not a move that you would even consider.
No, that's craziness is what it is. Yeah. Wow, what a move. What a move.
Oh, well. So, after Grishuk had missed to play c4, sacrificing a piece, he played the natural capture on d4, queen takes. It still should be better for black. The question is how much of his advantage remains.
I'm not sure. Now this one's becoming an endgame as well. How's the Magnus game? Nepo has created a blockade with the rocks. The queen on b6 guards everything. Maybe Nepo doesn't have a way to do anything wild, because he'll just stabilize and be okay. Meanwhile, I still don't understand how the engine is trying to say that this is not lost for Levon Aronian. This looks dreadful. This looks dreadful.
It does look dreadful. He has a pawn up, but his king is dancing in the middle of the board with still the queens and 2 rooks for each, plus the bishop. This is plenty of material on the board to not be okay with the king in the middle.
So this doesn't look great.
Yeah.
Oh, but queen
okay,
f2.
Queen f2.
Yeah.
I was just looking at that move and Christian going down to his final 15 seconds. So he's threatening a queen trade, and the rook on e8 will be hanging now.
Yeah, he's gonna take on a1, but then the rook on e8 is hanging, some pieces teleporting. Grishuk has won the a2 pawn, but this is no longer... Wait.
Is Aronian now better? Because in an endgame, that king is actually cool.
Wait, what is happening in the Magnus game? The Magnus game has a result that Nepo...
Nepomniachtchi has won?
Yeah, what?
In this position?
Yeah, wait, whoa. Huh?
What's going on?
Yeah, it says Nepo won. Magnus flagged?
Did he?
Alright. Server error, guys. Replay the games. It was a server error. No. He would have never... Wait, no, you're joking. He actually lost on time?
I can't believe it. Okay, we're gonna wait for confirmation, but it does seem to be the result on the site 0-1 and no move for white after rook to f8. Whoa. Okay, we're just gonna wait to confirm this until it's 100% sure that he actually lost on time. And then the last game that remains is Levon Aronian in a better endgame now, because in endgames you do need your king to be active, so that king in the middle of the board was actually doing fine for an endgame. After the queen trade was forced, Levon Aronian is now trying to win a position that was completely lost for him earlier.
Yeah, this is astounding. This is a crazy turn of events. I mean, I'm sorry. I've got no idea what to say. Nepo wins. He DC'd. Wait, they say he lost connection, a disconnect.
And he didn't get back in time, because disconnection doesn't lose the game. What loses the game is if you don't come back within the time you still had. So he lost on time because he disconnected and didn't manage to get back in time.
By the way, you gotta feel for Levon Aronian. This man is like a Buddhist. He suffered the whole game, and now he's reached nirvana. He's got the pawn up endgame to try to play against Grisha for the win. What a beast this Levon Aronian is.
I know, and I think he will win it because you've got the psychological edge. You've survived the worst, and now you can just play for a win in this endgame. So if anyone, he has a great chance.
Yes.
But I'm still just perplexed. I can't even pronounce the word. I cannot believe that Magnus Carlsen had lost on time and disconnected and then didn't get back in time, because he still had a few minutes. What time? What was the time situation before he lost on time?
Apparently, he had 30 seconds.
Oh, okay, that's very low. I thought he had a minute or two, but.
Wow.
Oh my.
That is crazy. And now, yeah, Levon is pawn up, but his pawn on b3, or sorry, pawn on b2 isn't going to move because of the rook on b3. So he plays bishop d1. There it is. I got to send out a tweet. That's the only way to.
What's your tweet?
Let's see. I'm about to write it. I'm gonna create something beautiful on the fly.
Are we live tweeting? Like we can write it together. Imagine thousands of people helping you form the perfect tweet.
Let me think. I'm trying to be sarcastic, but actually provide information as to what happened.
Okay, so what's your direction?
I'm just gonna go straight into the hot take.
I know it.
All right, I threw in the hashtag as well. Magnus with more server issues. St. Louis Rapid Blitz. All right,
that's a hot take.
That's
a hot take.
No, but Hikaru is actually saying that Magnus seems to be having some sort of. That's crazy. I mean, isn't Wi-Fi in like Norway? Denmark.
I'm not sure he's in Norway, by the way. Now that I'm thinking, he did post on his Instagram, because I stalk all the players. I need to know their updates from social media. That's what I do during every event I cover. I'm stalking all the players. So I was really sad that Fabian is not competing anymore, by the way, because he had a great Instagram story today. Speaking of Magnus, he did post a couple of days ago from a location that he didn't tag, and it's not his home. So I don't know where he is. I don't know if he said it anywhere else, but that looked like a really nice holiday location or training location. Could still be in Norway, but it didn't seem to be his home.
Yes, Hikaru brings up a good point. The only country on Earth with good, functioning, healthy internet is the United States. My 8 megabyte upload speed confirms that. Even on Ethernet, I've got 8 MB. On a good day, I got 9. And sometimes when the Ethernet takes a swig of coffee, I get to 10. But for the most part, I'm stuck at my 8 MB. Then again, there are some people in the States who have like a gigabyte of upload and download. BIOS is the fiber optic cables are. This winning? Wait, Grisha just trades this down like it's nothing. Is this? No, it's the easiest way to think about this being a draw is the fact that White's pawn is promoting on the incorrect color square. So all Grisha has to do is sacrifice this bishop for this pawn. And that might be easier said than done.
Definitely easier said than done, because White can just start pushing the b pawn for now. And then you'll have to make moves as Black, so you cannot just sit there in this situation as it is. But yes, the idea of Grishuk must be that if he gets to sacrifice the bishop for the b pawn and win the h pawn at the same time, well, no, you don't have to. So sorry, I'm explaining this totally wrong. Bishop and the rook pawn the h4 pawn of white, you cannot promote that pawn even if you win black's h pawn. But then, is this going to be then a fortress? Can he actually...
This should be winning, because here's the thing. If you just are left with the b-pawn, you should be winning, especially if the black king is so far away. Like, there should be a way to do it. So he's chasing down the bishop is what he's doing. And now he's going to play bishop e2, because if you play king g3 and we trade these h-pawns, I think I have enough material here to win. Yeah, just bishop e8. Bishop e8, and that's it. The pawn goes. It's over. It's over.
Okay, nope. That was the way.
That was the way. The pawn...
Yes.
I was just going to finish by saying the pawn gets to b6, you play king d6 and bishop here, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly, Davi, you're completely right. So the one hope for Grishuk was going to be that he gets to sacrifice the bishop for the b-pawn, and then the h-pawn wouldn't have promoted because it's the wrong color of corner for that bishop and pawn endgame. We can show you guys after the round or when we come back, but this current position is winning for white, because you always find a way to chase that bishop away. So now bishop b5, beautiful, and then b7, b8, new queen. Game over.
And that is it. And Grishuk resigns. I mean, that is crazy. That is a huge, huge comeback win from Levon Aronian. Is Levon 2 for 2?
I believe so, but let me double check. Is he on fire again?
He has 4 out of a potential 4 points. Friends, we are going to take a short break. We will be back with games beginning very, very soon. And Levon Aronian in first place on a perfect score to get things going here in our coverage of the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to coverage of the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. Oh, I thought I was muted for a second. My microphone did like a flash thing. Okay, it's just keeping me on my toes. No, we're back. We're good. I'm fine. Anna, how are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm still shocked by the turn of events in Magnus Carlsen's game. Basically, in a position where he's slightly better. I think if we just bring up the final position, if anyone is better in this position, it's white. It's not the big deal, but I'm sure that the world champion was aiming to play on and play this for a win, because it's a tiny bit better for white, a little bit. He can play it on for a while. He can try. But what happened instead of trying is that he disconnected. And by the time he got his connection back, he ran out of time. So this connection itself doesn't lose, but you need to connect back to the internet and come back to the game before you lose on time. So he flagged eventually and lost the game.
Exactly. I think at this point, according to what looks to be the accurate timestamp, he had 35 seconds. It's less than a minute at this point. And if he had 4 minutes or 5 minutes potentially, then he would have been able to get back in time. But because he had 35 seconds, I mean, that is a bummer, because at least he would have had a point for the standings. 1 full point.
Yeah.
Instead, meaning a draw, not the 2 points for the win. I know we have this whole different scoring system.
Yes.
But instead, Magnus is at 2 points and not tied for second, third, fourth. Crazy. I mean, that is the one issue with long-term high-level chess events like this, is that it doesn't happen in a stadium, you know, like whereas like normal esports situations, you're in the same kind of venue. Here you're playing from all over the world. So actually, it's an interesting question to the chat. What normally happens when in esports there is some sort of network outage or disconnect? Chess should learn from folks that have experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. We are still very new when it comes to chess as an esport. But it's certainly a great direction to go in. And we are very lucky, as we already highlighted so many times, that chess, even though the year 2020 is a really difficult one and challenging one, chess as a sport could keep thriving online, because it's one of the few sports that can be organized at the highest level also throughout the pandemic. It can be organized as part of online tours such as the Magnus Tour, or what we are witnessing now, the St. Louis events. So this this is a very promising start for chess as an online competition. Chess.com has always been one of the pioneers, basically, in organizing high level chess tournaments online.
Mhm.
So it's not that it didn't exist before, but usually the likes of Magnus Carlsen and the rest of the elite were playing mainly over the board tournaments. And what happened in the year 2020 is that everything turned inside out. And now we have almost no over the board tournaments and big events, high stakes events with lots of prize fund is organized through online. So we certainly should see what can be done about the disconnection and such. And as for the arena, I would love to see one day esports like events when it comes to a chess tournament in a huge arena and playing on computers. Chess.com did it with the Pro Chess League finals already twice, and it was the plan for this year too, but due to the pandemic, it couldn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. I saw chat discussing as well. One hidden element among this is that in chess there is no pause. It's not that the players are going to go run an engine and everything like that. It's more that they are going to think about the position, which can give some sort of advantage. But yeah, that's sort of the issue. You guys brought up a good point. It's like in chess, the players can sit there and visualize, conceptualize what's going to happen. You can't stop them from processing something mentally. You have no idea if they're doing it or not. Unless we do Elon Musk's neural plugin or whatever.
Yeah, maybe that's the solution. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. But for now, unfortunately, because of what Levy highlighted, there has to be some kind of a punishment to this connection. Because if there wasn't, even if players don't want to, they can take advantage of a situation like that because the brain keeps working. The brain keeps thinking of the position, even if they don't see the board.
Having said that, we probably will see a chess event that does enforce this rule, and in some way, because you are screen sharing with the organizers, you're not obvious. I mean, none of these players are going to do something that is against the rules, but you will be thinking about the position mentally.
Yeah.
If it leads to something that is not that's not savory or isn't supposed to be in alignment with the current evaluation of the position at the time of the disconnect, then it won't work. But I would imagine that this does happen. I would imagine that this does at some point happen in the future, and we don't just see Magnus like losing like that, because that sucks. Like that sucks.
Yeah, and he must be very upset, of course. That was a game that started that in a very unique way in the opening. Nepomniachtchi went very original with h5, h4, and the rest of his opening moves. And it looked like Magnus was punishing him for that opening approach. But something went wrong for the world champion in the midst of a calculation with the central pawn captures and maybe missing that rook d8 instead of castle queenside for black, which then turned the tables and brought Nepomniachtchi back into the game from an advantageous position for white. Then suddenly it became all wide open again.
I have pulled up this game, this Berlin between Hikaru and Dominguez Perez with the white pieces in Hikaru. I was going to try to check the theoretical status of this variation. I don't quite know all of the wrinkles. This backwards knight move very early from Linier, and then bringing it right back to c3. Okay. Then Hikaru plays bishop f3 to damage the structure. Linier seems like he's pretty confident in the position. He's playing relatively fast. c6 now from Hikaru, logical. He just moved his bishop out. Now he blocks these two squares. Actually, I like black's position a lot. I know it's probably equal, but it looks nicer. Like this knight on f5 is so strong.
Exactly. That's a very nice knight outpost. That's a square from which white cannot chase us away. It would only be a piece trade that could occur, but no pawn can attack that f5 knight. That's why it's such a strong square for the knight. And the doubled pawns on the c5 for black look way healthier than white's f3 and f2 pawns. So I think I would agree with you that optically this looks nice for black, but black is behind in development. So the activity of white's pieces and being ahead in development should give enough compensation, so to say, for the strategic weaknesses, the positional weaknesses.
For sure. Well, we see Lineage is very confidently chugging along. This must be some sort of theory. I mean, he's playing it so quickly. Both of them are playing so fast. Wesley So Magnus Carlsen is a Sicilian defense with bishop b5. This is called the Canal attack, named after what? Venice? Why is it called the Canal attack? Named after a person?
I have no idea. I didn't know this is how it's called. I mean, for us, average people, this would be just a Sicilian. The hedgehog setup is what we see the pawn structure of black. That's called a hedgehog. Well, I don't understand why it's the canal attack. Knight d7 on move 3. Is that the canal attack?
I think bishop b5. I know it as the Moscow variation.
Oh, that the check. Okay.
But I know it as the Moscow. I don't know why chess.com has it as the attack, but great name. Obviously, allows us to be humorous, right, chat? We're all gonna make jokes now. Yep, I already see the jokes beginning. Fantastic. I'm glad you all are your sense of humor is sharp today, but not too much to analyze here. I would say it's relatively straightforward in theoretical position.
Yeah, we'll come back to this, but for now we could take a tour and observe all the opening positions in the rest of the games as well.
Nepo Aronian, a matchup of the two guys who are leading the tournament, actually, whether deservedly or not, but Nepo definitely in a chance here to take away first place. What was this opening? Oh, G3.
All right.
What?
That could lead to a similar position than what Hikaru had against the Wesley in terms of the structure. But then it's soon became even crazier with G4 and F5 now on the board.
Yeah, Aronian doesn't strike me as a guy who needs a second invitation to fight. I'm not saying he, like, physically. I mean on the chessboard. Like, hey man, I'm going to disrespect you a little bit with this G3. Joking aside, it is just more of a sideline at this level than not. You see Spanish, Italian, 4 knights, the Scotch, and G3. Wow, that is not a popular variation.
It's not, and that's usually for a reason, but this is going to be an exciting game, that is for sure. Also likely that white will not castle kingside. That's very committal to castle on the flank where your opponent is ready to attack. But for castle queenside, Nepomniachtchi still needs to develop the queen and then castle. So does he have the time to do that now, or does he need to react to f5?
Good question. Probably he has to react to f5, because isn't black just threatening f4? But then there's knight b5 and maybe like knight takes a7 with the bishop defending.
Yeah, I guess f4, as scary as it looks, we have all sorts of knight jumps. Knight e4 would also attack the queen and give the c5 square to the bishop, or back to d2. Like if we play knight d2 e4 after f4, we have a retreating square. So I guess it looks scary, but it's not an actual threat of black.
Nice point. So if you play queen e2 f4, I'll play the move knight c4 knight e4. I'll steal an idea from my co-host, and I will then move my bishop back to safety. Okay, what about the move knight d4? Is that scary?
That might be scarier.
That's scarier, because then I don't think. Okay, I was wrong on one, but I like knight d4. It looks really nice for black. Like queen e2 knight d4.
I like it. Yeah. So I'm not sure what's the best way for Nepomniachtchi to follow. He's taking his time, which is a good sign, because he's one of the fastest, the speediest players. Also, when it comes to longer time controls, he doesn't spend that much time on his decisions, which is good and bad. Sometimes can work out very well for him. Other times, he pays the price for it.
Last game, he navigated the complexity of the position very well. So well that it made Magnus disconnect. But in actuality, he had a span of maybe 10 moves in the middle where he was playing very creative chess. So Magnus was keeping up with him and ultimately got the game down into a position that was better for him. It was a slightly better endgame. Knight b3 played, so we'll probably see f4 bishop d2.
Yes, f4 bishop d2 or f4 bishop c5. So then comes the question, what if Aronian just chooses something else? Because now that white is ready for that pawn push, and that would fix the pawn structure in a way that the e4 square is vulnerable, so that we could use that for a knight jump and so on. He may want to keep the flexibility, the mobility of his pawn chain, and do something else instead. Knight d4 idea of yours, Levi, I still like, even if it doesn't attack a queen. It's an option.
Knight d4, yeah, f4, knight d4. A lot of good ideas here. So many good ideas that it's can overwhelm you. You sit there for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. You still, I sometimes feel that way. Like I can't tell the difference between certain variations. I just sit there and think, and I think, and I think. 15 minutes goes by.
Yeah, I know the feeling. And then you end up making the wrong decision usually.
The third of 3 choices. I could have made 2 other choices.
Yes. There's a tendency like that we often fall into, those of us who compete or competed. I'm not sure what will be Levon Aronian's move. He is taking his time because it's a critical position, so we could move on to the rest of the games in the meantime.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of exciting chess. So Grishuk Hare Krishna is a semi-Slav defense with dt4, e4, b5, a4. So this is a very, very spicy variation. White sacrifices the pawn, black creates this blockade, white tries to undermine with moves like a4, and then we get queen b6, etc. I don't like the queen on a6. It's fine. It's completely, black is more than okay here, but I would not like to play a position with my queen locked out like that.
I would certainly not like it either. It basically is trapped. If a white piece could attack it, it would be lost. But even if you cannot attack it, the queen is completely out of the game. Must be a theoretical line. Otherwise, I don't picture anyone willingly going for this.
It must be some sort of preparation, or he's actually caught out a little bit. But the thing is, with Grishuk, you never know. You got no idea. Maybe Grishuk is inventing all of this.
Maybe he's a creative genius, so it's also on the cards, of course, that this is just something he invented. But the pawn sacrifice itself, this is the Botvinnik variation of the semi-Slav, and this is well known that white gives up the c4 pawn, allows black to protect it with b5 to get counterplay in the center, so better control of the center, but also white is ahead in development. White has got the initiative. There are a lot of pluses that white gets for the pawn, but the queen on a6 does puzzle me. Does not seem to be very natural.
I really like these positions for white. I just think they're so much nicer to play. I mean, even with a move like bishop b4, it's kind of the usual idea to hit this knight and then win this pawn. White even has moves like knight a2 to hit the bishop, and you can't. I don't think you could take this pawn. I mean, maybe you can. Wait, can you? No way. You just can't play chess like this.
Well, maybe that's his only move, because the queen is already bad on a6. Finally, the queen could start moving after you capture the pawn if you don't lose material.
Because if bishop e7, then you play like b4, for example, or even bc4, and the queen is just terrible. Like, if this structure collapses before you're able to castle, you're just going to lose. So, I'm assuming Grishuk will play knight a2. Hypothesis. I also don't think you can play queen a5. I just noticed you could play queen a5. But the thing is, it doesn't work because you'll take on c4. I think white just chops away at everything.
Yeah. So this is a very strange position, but since they are only on move 10, I would still assume that this is theory, unless Grishuk managed to trick Hare Krishna, and it started out as a theoretical line, and now it's just a crazy mess. That's the alternative.
Bishop d2 also makes sense. I guess the point is takes, knight e4. He wants to play bishop b4. So he's down 2 pawns, but black can't castle, and black's queen can't move, and black's bishop can't move, and black's knight can only move here. These pawns are about to collapse. No, you're trying to sell me a house with 2 very obvious problems, and I'm not buying. I'm not buying because I can't afford the down payment. But more importantly, it's the problems with the house.
I'm with you there. It's gonna be difficult for Hare Krishna to somehow activate the queen, even if he's material up. So we'll come back to that position later because it's an exciting one and very awkward at the same time. How about Hikaru's current position after the rook trade on d8?
I think this is your standard Berlin recipe. Nothing too crazy or complicated here. I've also got the Magnus game at the bottom left. A lot of you asking about the scoreboard. Here it is. We've had 2 rounds of 9 overall in the Rapid. This is the last round of the day, round number 3. And the scores that you see there are 2 points for a win and 1 point for a draw. 0 points for a loss. Probably the biggest story of the day is Jan Nepomniachtchi with 3 out of a possible 4, and Magnus with 2. Magnus losing to Nepo last round by disconnection. Losing on time. That is the current developing story.
I wonder if he's still upset because that's just something very frustrating. At the same time, of course, all the top players and the world champion obviously knows that they need to put that aside and focus on the new game because there's not much time in between these games. So it's not that they have 24 hours to move on, forget about it, and get ready for the new one. No, they have about 15, 20 minutes in between these games. And that's the amount of time in which you need to calm yourself down. Even if you're kicking yourself, you need to find a way to calm yourself down and get ready for the new game because you don't want that bad game or the disconnection to affect the next game too. You might lose more points for that one bad thing that happened to you, unfortunately.
That's exactly right. And we added it to the scoreboard. That's funny. Thank you, Nathan. Linier Dominguez just played knight d6, essentially offering a draw. The only question here is that if knight d6, rook d6, rook d8 a draw? It's a draw.
Well, is this a draw? I'm hoping not. I would love to see more fight, but the position is very solid. What's the rook endgame like? Is a good question.
Even the king endgame, right? Because if you trade the rooks, yeah, it's essentially can white play for any sort of advantage with these two, and this is where the engine at a low depth can't help you because it just stops. It stops at a certain point and goes, looks like a draw. I don't know. And Hikaru plays knight d4, so he's keeping the position alive, but I don't know for how much longer. Meanwhile, Magnus played the move knight g4, and Wesley looking solid. I don't know where should we leave things? Look at Firouzja versus Jeffrey. I will put Hikaru at the left.
Sure. Firouzja versus Jeffrey. We didn't check this game before, and when it comes to the opening, the King's Indian attack was the setup of white that Firouzja went for. I was also briefly wondering, they're almost the same age, but I'm not exactly sure about the exact numbers. So if you guys know in the chat, what's the age difference between the two, because these two players are the closest to each other in the field, that would be a great piece of information to know.
I think Jeffrey is 20 and Alireza is just turned 17. I think Jeffrey might be 21. Hey,
is he already 20 or 21?
19.
I always think he's under 20, but maybe it's just time has stopped for me and I consider everyone a junior. But yes, two of the youngest players in the field facing each other. Jeffrey Zhang, a promising star of the United States, Alireza Firouzja, 3-time Iranian champion, currently living in France, and he is the strongest junior player in the world. He's the highest rated. and he took down Magnus Carlsen in the Banter Blitz Cup on a one-on-one match. He took down the world champion. So a brilliant result for Firouzja, who is still just getting his first invitations to these elite tournaments. He did play in Vaikonze, but
Mhm.
he is still somewhat new in these top elite events.
I love it. I love that Waikanze gives people who don't have a huge platform to play these events. It's a it's a sport which features few events that are invitational level. Primarily, historically, before this year over the board, you just get invited. You're a top junior, you get spotted. I don't know how that process works, Anna. Do you have any idea how the organizers decide who to invite? Is it like totally random or?
It's not completely random. They do have some qualification spots, uh, but that would be one or two places, as far as I know. And the rest, they just want to make it a very exciting and compelling tournament where new faces, bright talents, basically young prodigies, the top female players get a chance to. So they really want the field to be different to the usual super tournaments, which I think is a great idea. And they always have fighting chess and exciting games in every round. So that does give a recipe to making the draw or everything is equal kind of feature of chess not so relevant, because if your opponent is a 2600, you get to play against, let's say, Badur Jabava.
Yep.
But the guy is great. He's lower rated than you, but he's strong. So there can be upsets. There can be just the players usual more than usual aiming for taking risk and maybe playing dubious openings as well, or not the most solid, so to say, openings.
Yeah, I love that Ali Reza gets to qualify for these things. I really wish chess. It'll never be this. I can't even imagine a model where it's like that. But for instance, a sport like mixed martial arts, which has a pay-per-view system, we're never going to be like that. But it's a very unique sport, and so
Yeah.
selling, your interview, selling your personality is so much of it. You build the hype around yourself. People want to see you, whether it's to see you win or lose, because you talk so much that they'll tune in no matter what. And so chess doesn't have that. And so interviews with these guys, like I've been thinking about this because I've been thinking, chat, I'm gonna let you in a little secret. I was thinking, like, how do you make a successful chess podcast? Like, what do people even want to listen to, right? So why
Levy
would
and the Chess Podcast. Do I hear a future project?
maybe? But I've been thinking, and I think it'll be a total failure because it's like let's say I reach out to a GM, right? I'm like, hey, come talk to me. Why? For what? For what? Like, what's the benefit? There is no benefit in chess to have more exposure up until maybe this year because we're seeing this esports boom. So why would a GM talk to you? Because what? Are we going to get Cloud9 MVL in the future? like what are these guys going to be doing? So I don't know.
Yeah, I understand your point there. But yes, I think more and more grandmasters and top players realize that there's a lot of potential when it comes to content creation in chess, and they start streaming, they start their own YouTube channels. One of the prime example is Anish Giri, who recently started his YouTube channel and now streams almost every day, if not every day. I saw a great collaboration between you guys, Hikaru, Levi, Anish, and who was the fourth player? I'm trying to think. Was it Vidit?
Vidit and Rajabov, yeah, they split duties. Anish lost like
Oh.
5,000 viewers when Vidit left. That's a guy that will talk. That guy's got the whole country of India behind him. So yeah, it was really cool to see that.
Well, our audiences are very excited about the potential podcast, so it's hopefully something that you will consider again, Levi.
I'm thinking about it, but listen, historically, grandmasters would rather not have a 1 hour conversation about themselves, right? Like grandmasters, they have this whole chess is a very secretive game. You don't want to give away any of your preparation. You don't want to give away any of your secrets or ideas that you're planning for future tournaments, unless there's contracts that you can sign money and big online tournaments and invitations. But Anna, last year, how much overlap did we see tournament to tournament with the players, the same players?
Yeah, that was true. It was also very difficult for the players. Their tournament schedule was insane. They barely went home. They went from tournament to tournament, which is demanding on the players, of course. But if you don't go to the tournament, well, that's another couple of thousand or tens of thousands of euros off of your bank account, because those are the high stakes, the high price found events. So most of the players would end up having a crazy schedule. That's true. Now the positions, though, because I think we need an update on what is happening.
Hikaru and Linnier at the bottom left, they're still battling in their endgame. I put the Wesley So Magnus game. Magnus is down double on the clock, so Wesley is doubling him. He's got 17-8. Big time difference, and not much movement. Center. What's the plan here?
Where's the king going so that h3 pawn is attacked by the knight? King g3 and king h2 are the two moves that will keep the pawn protected.
Yeah. Pull up.
Meaning that, let's say king g3, that seems to be the most active. Will Hikaru just go to d5? That's a nice spot for the knight. And if you try to chase it away with c4, then where are we going? We can jump around, make a circle with that knight, or just knight b4, a3.
Yeah. I was gonna say something with
knight
c4.
c2. Sorry, I'm just talking to myself, Levy.
Oh, I thought something happened, but my big brain idea was going to be king g3, g5. That was my potentially big brain idea.
Oh, now if that works, that's big brain. King g3, g5. Wow.
En passant, you have to bring back the knight. Take with the pawn, you lose your knight. If f6 check, you play king e6. I don't know. I'll just end all my thoughts that way. Safety net of
Interesting.
The great philosopher Bob Hess said, "It's a lot easier to move pieces that aren't yours."
True. And we also have the luxury. Sorry, I don't know if that was heard on the coverage. But someone randomly called me. I don't even know where. That was not Zoom, was it? I was like, is someone joining our Zoom call?
What?
No, I just had an incoming call, and that was like, I was mid-thought, mid-sentence, and then suddenly on my screen I see someone calling me, but it was like, I don't even know. It wasn't a username. I didn't know what was going on. Okay, it's not our Zoom call being hacked, right? At least.
No.
Okay. No, I think we could.
Wait, like you get an alert on your computer screen when someone calls you?
Maybe it. Oh, wait, is this Skype? I don't understand.
It's the government.
I'm very confused.
Shouldn't have messed around. I don't know. We're all good.
Yeah.
Anish leaked my Zoom. That was fun. But the good thing is that Zoom created a barrier between the meeting and the there's a waiting room now. So yeah, Anish, he screwed me there a little bit, but it was good. It was fine. We figured it out. Is Linnier still thinking, by the way? Linnier still hasn't moved?
Linear feels like it's taking a while to decide where to move with the king, which is interesting because you would assume that there are not too many options, and if you need to choose between h2 and g3, g3 looks more active. Or is he considering to sacrifice the pawn and play king to f3?
Maybe king f3, knight h3, and he's like, I don't care, I got these pawns, I got the king, my knight's a chat, I got a good rook on d1 defending everything, it's all good. Or he plays, king g3, and then we go for this rodeo with the horsey. I'm not sure. Not sure, but somehow I just believe in Linier to make the most solid move. Most solid move.
I think we'll need to wait for that decision to be taken. I'm also just checking in with Wesley. So against Magnus Carlsen, Magnus, as we mentioned already, disconnected in his previous game against Jan Nepomniachtchi in a slightly better endgame. So he is not very happy in this moment. Not very happy about his position. Can he be happier? It's a hedgehog setup in the Sicilian, which usually means that white has more space, more activity for their pieces, but it's a solid setup. It's not so easy to break through.
No, it's not. It's not. Weird. These games are like. These games are wild today. Yeah, why don't we stay on the Nepo game? I want to put Hikaru on the bottom left. Permanent
Sure.
vision.
Staying with the Nepo game, this is the most exciting. I agree. The b7 pawn is currently hanging with a check, which likely means that Levon Aronia needs to address this issue. Will he push c6? Will he defend the pawn with a move like queen to b6? There aren't too many options. c6 is the most natural, and it has been played.
Yes, it has. I like black's position still, but it's getting a little bit more closed. Getting a little bit more closed. Chances to win are... potentially dwindling. And Nepo plays a good move, this h4 idea. Trying to break the structure on the queen side.
I like it to try to undermine the f4 pawn, because that pawn structure for black is a really nice one. It takes a lot of space away, controls and restricts the mobility of white's pieces on the king's side. So it's a logical move, but at the same time, the aj rook is protected by the queen, so black can allow h takes g5, h takes g5.
Look here for a second. Grishuk versus Pintala Hare Krishna.
Well, the queen is still on a6, but at least now it can move away from a6. So that's good news for Hare Krishna. That's an improvement.
Yeah, this is looking actually quite a bit more pleasant. Pawn captures back on f6, and now he's got ideas like rook g8. Huh. It's actually looking a little bit more promising.
Yeah, because the king will be basically in the middle of the board. It's still legal for black to castle, but both flanks have been weakened already. Castle queenside would be a straight-out disaster. Castle kingside, there are at least more pawns in front of the king, so you could try to hope that they will guard you well enough, but I think that's just too weak. Plus, the knight on d7 at the moment would be hanging, so as long as the queen is attacking the d7 knight, you cannot castle kingside.
I still am a believer in Grishuk's position here. I still am a believer in Grishuk's position. I like it quite a bit. Firouzja Jeffrey. Apparently Firouzja's last move is a blunder, because I show up here, and that evil bar just slides a little bit.
Is it a blunder?
I don't know. Firouzja's got a weird convention of pieces on the left side of the screen.
Yes, it's a hangout organized on the A and B files. I like it though, unless there are concrete things happening. So what's with the trade on d3? Why it just takes back? Is that the case? Because the d3 pawn, maybe it's okay, but at the same time, black's position is so solid that even though white seems to be more active and have the upper hand, I'm not sure that it's true, because the only thing that could be a target if we get to trade on d3, then it's the d5 pawn. But the rest of white's pieces, as you said, they're hanging out there on a4, a5, b5, b4, but they're not doing anything.
No, they're not. They're just having a group hug. Rook feels left out, and the king feel like out.
Hug.
Yeah, but what is going on in the Linier game? We didn't lose Linier, right?
I hope he did not, but he's taking his time too much. Is he actually still thinking in that position? Let me check on the events page.
Let's
I
look.
don't get it. Cannot be.
Yeah, he's got 5 minutes left. Well, credit to Linier for making this exciting on the clock. We can't have an exciting position, we'll have an exciting clock situation. That's also good.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for Hikaru. It's great for Hikaru because the more time Dominguez uses, the more chances Hikaru will have to actually win this endgame, which seemed to be dry. And if anyone could try, perhaps it's still white because white has more space. This active knight on d6, the rook on d1. So it's becoming promising for Hikaru if Lenier doesn't make a move for so long. I mean, I'm hoping that he's at least connected and he actually is thinking.
Jeffrey Shong, meanwhile, is breaking up the hug.
Aww.
He's playing a6, and the horsey is going to be sent back. And he'll probably send some of the other pieces back. I don't know, b5. No, b5 doesn't quite work. Got an interesting position. These two pawns in the center taking away squares from Alirez's pieces. Grishuk, I'm checking in on you. Queen pins the knight still. Engine is trying to convince me that Hikaru, Hare Krishna, not Hikaru, Hare Krishna's position is slightly better. And what's happening in...
Interesting evaluation, but it's true that black is up material, so the engine usually values that highly, but with the king on e8, I think this is at least unclear.
Linier made a move.
Big news.
Linier Dominguez has indeed played a move. I'm not going to stay here for too long, because I'm not actually sure that that move did a whole lot. Hikaru checked him, and then jumped into e3. The rook moved. Now we have this position. And it is unpleasant. Make no mistake about it. This is a pretty unpleasant position for black, because white has that strong knight on d6. And the two pawns. And I just hope that Hikaru doesn't do the same thing last time, that he did last time in the game against Linier. Linier played super solidly. Hikaru himself said he tried to create things when he didn't have to. He took risk when he didn't have to, and he lost.
Yeah.
And I hope he doesn't do the exact same thing here.
Oh, I'm sure that he has that in mind, because that's if you guys remember the Fischer random, that's exactly what Hikaru was highlighting, and he was so angry at himself for letting that happen in that game against Dominguez and losing the game in the end. So he'll be careful about that for sure.
Move knight c2, he's trying to play knight d4, and so what's the point? What if white plays king f4?
Good question. Activates the king further, and the pawn on g7 is attacked, and there aren't too many ways to protect it.
No, there aren't.
If rook h7, can white go for the a7 pawn with knight c8 check, or will that knight get trapped?
Chad, I know that you have the fork on e2, but it's white's move. So if king f4, knight d4, white does not... It's white's turn. So king f4, knight d4, you don't get 2 turns in a row. I wish I did. Okay, so Hikaru's playing king f8. Got it.
That makes sense. Much better than moving the rook to h7 or g8. Or so it looks like. At the same time, I'm worried because black's pieces are really passive when it comes to the king and the rook. The knight will be amazing on d4, so that's a great post for the black knight. But the king and the rook, as solid as this setup is, I'm a little worried that that white could do something. I don't know what exactly.
Yeah, it is looking pretty suspicious.
Yeah.
For Hikaru, but he's got a 10-minute time advantage. I don't know why Linier spent 8 minutes on the king move. I guess he had some deep idea in mind and he was doing a lot of different calculations, but 2.5 minutes is not a lot of time.
Yeah. No, it's definitely puzzling why he spent so much time, and now maybe even if he's somewhat better, he will not be able to invest that much time anymore in the position and figure out the best way to continue because he's down to his final 2 minutes.
Final 2 minutes indeed. A draw here for Hikaru would definitely feel nice. Probably isn't thrilled, but he has to come back tomorrow. Field doesn't get any easier. Let's put it that way. Playing Wesley So, playing Linier, got Nepo, Grishuk, ton of really strong players.
Yeah, it's a tough field for everyone. And once again, we saw the first 3 days being played in a different chess variant. A reminder that Magnus and Hikaru, the 2-1, shared first place at the Fischer random, but this one, Rapid and Blitz, so similar time control, but back to traditional chess is what you're witnessing now. Today is day 1.
I'm just looking at this position. More than anything else, I don't know how Linier is going to play this with 1 minute.
And he's thinking a lot again. This is crazy. At the same time, he's a former World Blitz champion, so he's capable of speeding up and making great moves, but it's such a big difference in time.
And he's played King E4, which is a very logical move. Cutting back on the knight squares. Having 12 minutes here doesn't make your position any easier, I just have to say. It really doesn't. Got all this time, but...
I'm just also looking at Magnus Carlsen's position, and I feel like it's almost as if Magnus was fighting for a draw because the d6 pawn has disappeared. So it's a pawn up for white, and he's offering a rook trade. It's true that he has the pair of bishops that usually gives quite a nice compensation, but is this enough?
Yeah, we get rook takes d8 from Wesley. So Wesley's just up a clean pawn. Magnus has the bishop pair. That's the current status. Magnus also has 2 versus 8. Magnus is not usually in this degree of time trouble.
Yeah, very strange. He still must be affected by the previous game, and that's why it's so difficult for all the players to just have this 15-20 minute break between rounds and then come back to a new one as if nothing happened. A reminder, if you're just joining, that the world champion lost his previous game against Jan Nepomniachtchi. He disconnected in a somewhat better position for Magnus. It wasn't winning, but he had a slightly better position. He disconnected and he didn't connect back in time. So you don't lose for disconnection, but you need to make it back to the game before your time runs out.
And imagine if Magnus loses 2 straight. When's the last time Magnus lost 2 straight games? Was it to Wesley So in the Fischer Random World Championship?
I mean, you're bringing up a great point. Bringing up a great point there.
Well, no. I guess he did lose 2 in a row to Hikaru. He lost the 2 in a row to Hikaru in Blitz, but I meant in Rapid. In Rapid.
Yeah.
In Rapid, because he did lose 2 in a row to Hikaru in like Blitz and Armageddon, and they just had this match, but obviously he doesn't deserve the loss that just occurred. But on the bottom screen, meanwhile, after King E4, it's Hikaru who's going for a thing. So it just goes to show you that even though one guy has less than a minute, it doesn't make your day any easier.
Yeah, because the position is still better for white. I actually don't even know what would be the right setup here for black in terms of how do you activate that rook? How do you get it out of there?
Right, we're talking, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I went back to Hikaru's.
No, I know. All good. I don't know how you activate this rook. I don't know. And I'm just looking back at knight d6, and this was Linier's entire idea. Play f4, f5 if you don't take.
Seems so unpleasant for Hikaru. So he's got a lot of time advantage, but his position is unpleasant because all the white pieces are very active. White has lots of space. And the pieces, if you compare the white king to the black king, the white king is way more active. Same goes to the rooks. The only piece that can compete is the knight because the knight on d4 is well placed. You can jump there straight away. But one piece cannot save the entire game. So Hikaru would need to activate the rook, and that's what he's trying, I guess. After rook g8, um, will will he be able to push the g pawn? But then f6 is always something you need to bear in mind.
Yeah, he's trying to do something with the g pawn. That much is very clear. Lanier's got 30 seconds, which is not a lot of time, but when you have a bonus on the clock, you know, it's it doesn't feel as dire. Let me go check the time situation. All right, the players are starting to clash. Here's the clash. Lanier does really have 15 seconds. That is nuts. That is crazy to me. Wow. Hikaru brings the knight back to e6. And white has an advantage here, make no mistake. It's definitely an advantage. Ooh, but a3 is suspect, because I thought the rook was trying to go there. There's Hikaru trying to create counterplay. Anna, I'm really scared that the same thing might be happening here.
But in this case, I felt like Lenier has a slightly better position, and he just keeps pressuring. I don't think Hikaru went crazy in this game, or do you think that was a turning point earlier?
I think he should have taken the knight on d6, but...
Oh, earlier to get into the rook endgame. That's a good point. Yeah. He did have that option earlier, and then we wouldn't have this annoying piece on f5.
Because now this is just highly, highly unpleasant. I mean, you've got h4, you've got rook d2 potentially coming, and black just can't move the king. So... king d7, king c7. We'll see. Hikaru has not had a like a bad day in a long time, right? Like he's for the most part, for the past 2 months, has had pretty good days. Maybe a day where you just you lost like in the rapid against Magnus. So be curious to see how he is, how he feels about it. I feel like these two games against Linier really went the same way both times. Oh man, and now c5. And is c5 just a winning pawn endgame because bc5, ba5?
Could be. So white is already a pawn up, is it? No, it would be if he had taken, but what Lev is saying is the main point, not even the number of pawns, but you are about to create, as white, an a-passed pawn, which will be very difficult to catch. It's only the black knight that can go after that pawn. The white king is already so close, you can go and grab the c-pawns. What happened after c5 was a takes b4, c takes b6, and that pawn is running, so king e8, and after... Well, b7 cannot be played immediately because of knight c5 fork.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks like we got king d3. I don't know. We probably have some delay. Linier has just... he didn't lose on time. We know that we're lagging a little bit. We're not. The relay has to catch up a bit. But yeah, it looks like Linier with this pawn and the hanging pawn on h5, this king is too close to black's pawns.
Yeah, the evaluation bar didn't like that much king d3. Knight takes h5 was the simple solution of the engine to just take that free pawn on h5 and then have two passed pawns running. But still, this position looks very, very difficult to hold for Hikaru after the check on c5. King to c4 would be logical. King c2. Okay, because if king c4, black would have had b3, and you need to take care of the b pawn. Now, after b3, just king to c3 he plays.
Yeah, b3 and now king c3. And I mean, the knight is going to go and the h-pawn is going to go. I guess you can take on... Whoa, whoa, whoa! What just happened? What just happened? Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Whoa, whoa,
Was he
whoa!
blundered?
I don't even know what's going on. We got knight d3.
The
He blundered
evaluation
knight
bar.
a4 check.
Yeah, the evaluation bar is back to equal. Knight a4 check, picks up the b6 pawn just in time, and black will now go for the e pawn with knight d7, perhaps, and then it's
Oh
just
my,
right to take everything e5 and then the rest of the pawns. It's a draw now.
that's lucky. That is. I mean, in chess, you earn your luck, and sometimes it means brute forcing your opponent on the clock, and they will blunder. And a knight check on the rim missed by Hikaru. Sorry, by Linier, and he's winning the pawn back. And now with that b pawn gone, there is wow. I mean, that is
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
Apparently, what Dominguez had to play instead of that knight d3 move was to push the pawn, the h pawn, because black had no time to capture the knight on f4. h6 would then have two passed pawns. You cannot catch both with the knight.
No, it's I've always said the exact same thing. I mean, if according to the law, there's a lot more skill in chess than there is luck. One of the reasons why, in terms of games of chance or whatnot, but in chess you earn your luck, and
Yeah,
you earn it like this by playing.
exactly. The fighting spirit that Hikaru kept making the toughest possible moves for his opponent, even if his position was lost, he kept making it difficult for Dominguez and putting a lot of pressure on him time-wise as well, makes it officially a draw. A nice escape by Hikaru from a very
Wow.
difficult position. It was lost the end game.
Yeah, it was just lost. And oh man, Levon meanwhile is also Levon and Nepo also drew. I will keep an eye on what we can expect. When we can expect Hikaru, I would imagine that they want to talk to him. Doesn't want to talk to Hikaru. GG. Not the best day of chess, but we take it. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. We could have. And Hikaru writes pure trash in the chat. We feel you, Hikaru. That was a weird one. That was a weird game.
It's still a safe. It's still a safe. So, as you said, you earn your luck at chess. He deserved to save that game also for all the other circumstances. In chess, after all, everything balances out. In the Fischer random, he lost the game against Dominguez. He really didn't have to. It was him pushing too much, and that's how Dominguez got chances. So after all, I think the balance is the right one between these two players now. But I understand Hikaru is not happy with the game. I hope he still will join us when he can after his interview and let us know about the previous games too. I'm curious about the Wesley So game too and the draw for and his thoughts on the event so far, of course.
Well, his thoughts are summated by two words. Words were pure trash. A rough day of chess. Rough day, but we got six
It's
more
just the
games of
first
Rapid.
day, though.
I know.
Yeah,
So we've got will
six
join
more games
us.
of Rapid and 18 more games of Blitz, and that's the tournament overall. So 5 days altogether, and there's a lot at stake and lot to play for. This is only the first day. 4 more days will follow. Not all games are finished, but we will be joined by Hikaru as soon as he can be with us. I'm just looking at the Firouzja Zhang game, and Grishuk Hari Krishna is still on as well. Oh, is Hari Krishna completely out of danger now?
Yeah, that one is just looking like an endgame. I put the Fallujah game on the big screen because it is really exciting. Whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. One guy doesn't have a queen anymore. Huh?
Ooh.
One guy's just sacked his queen. Just sacked his
And
queen straight up. Okay.
yeah, that was a Botus Gambit on purpose, taking on d8, offering the queen, meaning that now white has a rook and a bishop for the queen, but the evaluation bar supports it.
Yes. It looks like it's a very nice position for white with rook d8 coming. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. This is tense moment here for Jeffrey, who's got 30 seconds.
I'm not even sure what he has to play. Maybe do something about the back rank in general, because Rook D8 is an issue. Rook D8 or Rook D7, both seem to be strong.
Both look good. And we have Hikaru joining.
Oh, I'm just gonna turn off my camera for that moment when he's here.
Please. Hikaru! How are you?
Can you hear me?
Hear you perfectly.
How's it going, you guys? Or actually, you don't have video, do you?
No, we do.
No, you do have video. Okay, cool. All right, what's up? How's it going, you guys?
How
We're
are
good.
you
Thank
doing?
you for joining.
I mean, I feel like all things considered, I can't be too upset with the result. I mean, I think in a way it kind of it evens out, because this game against Magnus, I probably never should have lost, but this last game against Dominguez, I played really, really badly, and I almost certainly should have lost this game. So I think it all balances out, but obviously, yeah, it was not a good day. I mean, I think the way to look at it is that there are 18 Blitz games after the Rapid as well, so it's a very, very long tournament.
So what you're saying is Lenier can't run away from you with a draw in the Blitz, is what I heard. That's what I heard. Is that...
Well, actually, I don't think it's so much about the Lenier game. I think the game where that really matters was the second game against Wesley, because that's the game where if this was a Rapid event only, let's just say it was 9 rounds, I almost certainly would have played on. But because there are 18 Blitz games, I felt that it wasn't in my best interest to try and play on in probably what I felt was a slightly worse position. So it's like the Lenier game is pretty much whatever. But again, it all evens out. I probably shouldn't have lost him in the 960, and I did, so it is what it is.
Well, Harry just beat... Oh my gosh, Grishu just blundered some sort of mate.
What? You're kidding?
Yeah, well, Grishuk
Oh.
Grishuk just went little bananas and lost. Harry's just winning. Harry won. It's over.
That's a huge turn of events in that game, and Firouzja Zhang is the final game of the round. It's a rook and bishop versus queen. Maybe if we just bring it up real quick on our board, because they might be repeating moves.
Yeah, let me also pull up the scoreboard. I was gonna ask Hikaru, have you seen who you're playing tomorrow? Have you looked at that at all?
No, I mean, all I know is that I felt that today was probably the most unpleasant in terms of the general layout of the players that I had to play. Having to play Magnus, Wesley, and Lenny, I think they're probably 3 of the most solid players in the field. Some of the players who can be most solid, but also don't take a lot of big risks. So, yeah, I felt today was probably the hardest day. I have some idea that I have 2 whites tomorrow. Beyond that, I don't know, but I just felt that today was probably the day where it was the most unpleasant in general. And yeah, I mean, it's what it is, but I think, as I said before, it's not 9 Rapid games. There are also 18 Blitz games as well. So it becomes this very long tournament where I think you just need to be in contention more than anything going into the Blitz.
It's very true that the 18 Blitz games need to be taken into account, and you are known to be one of the best, if not the best, Blitz player in the world. So definitely a good chance there. In terms of your game against Magnus, did you feel where it slipped out? Because we thought that you had a really nice position out of the opening and a very promising position.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably winning objectively, but it's much easier to see when you have a computer as opposed to not having a computer. Yeah, I mean, I knew that the position was very good because I had this, what was it now? I think 3 years ago, I had this game against Valentina Gunina in Gibraltar in the same position with this bishop b4, knight d7. And I knew the position was very pleasant, but then I think there was the critical moment where I used like 2 or 3 minutes and I played this very creative idea with queen b1 and b4. And it was completely fine, but I used it all the time, and then I felt it slipping away, and I couldn't regroup and just take the pawn on c4 for some reason, which would have just drawn the game. Instead, I let Magnus go c3, and then of course it was just a disaster. So, I mean, there were critical moments where I made a couple of mistakes in that game, and I think, I mean, it kind of sums up the whole day. Just like at critical moments, I didn't find the best moves. For example, this game against Lenier, I think I had looked at this. I mean, I haven't looked at this probably for maybe a year now, but I had looked at this variation, and I know that it's supposed to be a forced draw somehow. But then during the game, I think maybe I took on g5, which was wrong. I'm supposed to go bishop e7 first or something like this, and then at the end also, I just forgot that when I calculated g3 on a5, he just plays the c5 move, which was just, I mean, insane. So I think today was a day to forget, really, because like there's no way, if you go to the end levy, there's no way in a million years that I should miss this a5, c5 pawn break at the end. But I thought, okay, I just go a5. I go a5. It's an easy draw. Ho hum fiddly dum. And then of course Lenier plays c5, and I just want to basically jump off a bridge. So yeah, not good, to put it mildly.
Is there a screen cap of you saying what you feel after c5 or?
I mean, probably, yeah. I was, I was honestly just disgusted because it's such an obvious thematic move. Like, there's literally, like, I don't even know how you don't see the move. Like, it's just impossible not to see c5. And somehow I calculated g3, and I thought basically it's to go ba, and it's an easy draw, and it's just like, I was very upset. But fortunately, I think he missed a win in here after c5. If you keep going, I think he missed a win. There was somewhere where I think he was winning. Yeah, first of all, I think king c4 instead of king c2 was winning. If you go back.
Okay. King c4, b3.
Yeah, and then I think king c3 is winning because he's going to get the h pawn, I thought. Although maybe I'm wrong. Because knight a4. I mean, maybe it's one tempo too slow. Maybe I still draw because knight a4, king b3, knight b6, knight h5. I have knight d7, and I just barely can save it. But I thought there had to. Oh no! You know what? No, sorry, this was not the win. There was a win later too. There was this h5. Yeah. Sorry. Go to the position after king f5.
After king, yeah.
So first I thought king c4 was fine, but he went king c2, so I went king d7. Yes, here I think it was here the h5 is winning, right?
Yeah, so his knight's not actually hanging because the pawn promotes, right?
Yeah, and then on king g5 there's some. Oh yeah, there's king g5. There's e6, right? Or no, it's h6, e6. What's the order? No, it's h6 first. It's h6.
h6 takes e6.
Takes f7, king g7. Yeah, you got to show it. It's too beautiful not to.
Oh, knight e6 and then b7.
Knight e6, b7, and that's puzzle rush number 58. So
this is amazing.
I mean it's just very beautiful.
Pawns are too far apart. Yeah, that is a nice idea.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean I was lucky to draw this at the end, but I mean I think Lenier also, he used way too much time. He used like I think 13 minutes to play this rook g1 king e4 idea. I think if he had done that in maybe like 5 minutes instead of 13, I think I probably would have lost in the end game because he used too much time. Then at the end, he couldn't be precise, and I was fortunate enough to escape with a draw. So it all evens out.
It does even out. Yeah. Sorry, Levy.
I was just gonna say this knight a4 move came in right at the right moment. Lenier didn't see the h pawn idea. He backed up and take. I'm putting up the scoreboard. We'll just take a look at it. Yeah, Ronian on 5 out of 6. He's doing well. Hare Krishna. I don't think Hikaru plays Hare Krishna tomorrow. I think he plays Firouzja in the first round and Nepo in the third round. I forget who's in the middle.
Well, I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, it's a rapid and a blitz event. It's not just rapid. Yeah. If this was rapid and there are only 6 games left, then I would say objectively it would be very hard to get back into it. But because there are 18 games of blitz as well as 6 more rapid games, it's a very long tournament. So, like I said, I don't really care as long as I'm somewhere in the middle or middle to upper half. Going into blitz, that's all that I'm really focused on. And yeah, I figure I played some probably the worst chess I think that I've played in quite a while in terms of the events that I've played in. So I think all things considered, I'm in a decent spot.
All right, well we'll let you go. This was a good first day. I was gonna say good first day of coverage. Hikaru, maybe you're not so happy with your play, but it's gonna be a good day tomorrow of play and coverage.
I'm fine with my play because I got decent positions and then everything went wrong. Like, I mean, it's like when you get decent positions and then you do stuff like a complete idiot, it's always much easier because you can get really angry for an hour and then you laugh it off and it's all good. Whereas like, if things kind of go wrong from the start, it's much easier to be really upset. But I'll laugh it off in an hour.
Okay. You're gonna.
That's a great recipe. We are of course rooting for you to laugh it off as quickly as possible. I was going to ask you if you will be streaming straight away or what's your plan for the rest of the day?
Yeah, I mean, of course I'll be streaming. I always stream. So good or bad, I always stream. But there will I probably will be doing some analysis, and I won't be very kind to myself in terms of what I say. That much I think is clear.
You gotta set a timer for 60 minutes, and when it rings, you have to laugh it off, and then you'll have to chat. Chat will be there. They'll have to laugh it with you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my.